In the third year of his daughter's abduction, Fu Yu gave up searching. He said life and death are fated, and he couldn't be too selfish. Living well in the present was most important. But later, his white moonlight also disappeared, yet Fu Yu's hair turned white overnight, and he searched for his white moonlight for 50 full years. In this second life, I protected my daughter first and filed for divorce unexpectedly. Fu Yu also got reborn on his first night back. He booked flight tickets and took his white moonlight abroad for a vacation. It wasn't until half a year later that he finally remembered our daughter. Fu Yu held the doll he bought from the airport, wanting to pick up his daughter after school, but his daughter pushed him away without hesitation and threw herself into another man's arms. Sorry, I already have a new dad. 1. The news of Qingye's disappearance came just after I had a big fight with Fu Yu. He grabbed my shoulders, nearly roaring. Yuan Yuan has been missing for 3 years. We've tried everything, but we simply can't find her. Life must go on. Can't you just move forward? I reached out and slapped him hard, feeling utterly heartbroken. But we're Yuan Yuan's parents. If we don't keep looking for her, she'll truly never come back. Yuan Yuan is the daughter of me and Fu Yu. When she was 5 years old, the nanny took her to sunbathe in the neighborhood, but in the blink of an eye when the nanny turned around, the child was gone. The nanny was too scared to call the police immediately, missing the best chance to save Yuan Yuan. Fu Yu and I tried countless methods, but there was never any trace of Yuan Yuan. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. This year marks the 3rd year of her disappearance. Fu Yu suddenly told me that he didn't want to continue searching anymore. He also hoped I would give up, move forward, live well in the present, and that we could have another child. His cold indifference made me feel alienated and heartbroken for a time. Yuan Yuan is a piece of my own flesh and blood. To have a piece of flesh forcibly carved away would be too painful. I simply couldn't give up. Thus, we had the most intense argument since our marriage. In the past, I always liked him a bit more and was somewhat willing to yield to him. Fu Yu took advantage of my affection to force me into concessions. But when it came to Yuan Yuan, I absolutely would not yield. Every single item in the house was thrown and smashed. The hysterical shouting nearly drained all my strength. He watched coldly, as if observing a clown. Shani, you're so selfish. For a child who can't be found, must you stir up such turmoil in the family? His initial guilt gradually turned into impatience. After leaving these words, he turned and entered the room, locking the door behind him. The noisy living room suddenly fell into silence. I sat on the living room sofa, looking at my daughter's photo on my phone, unable to stop the tears. But the next second, someone suddenly sent a message in the high school class group chat. It said that Qingye had gone missing. That smart and beautiful girl, who had just transferred to our class in high school, immediately caught the attention of many boys, including Fu Yu. I just saw this message and didn't even have time to think. But the previously tightly shut door was suddenly opened. Fu Yu looked flustered, constantly making phone calls that never went through, muttering, "Aya, please don't let anything happen to you." Fu Yu had always been composed. Even when Yuan Yuan went missing before, he maintained his usual calmness, never appearing as panicked as now with his hands trembling. To Fu Yu, Qingye was like the pure moonlight in the depths of his heart. In the past, I never thought much of it. Fu Yu is the man I've loved since childhood. Our families were well matched, and we could be considered childhood sweethearts. I loved him. I've loved him since I was little, but his indifferent nature made me give up hope when I noticed his special treatment towards Qingye during high school. Later, Qingye chose to study abroad and voluntarily gave up on him, causing their budding relationship to wither before it could blossom. Fu Yu remained depressed for a long time before gradually emerging from the gloom. Never mentioning Qingye again, I continued as always, staying by his side year after year. Fortunately, I finally waited for him to confess his feelings to me. We became a couple, then got married and had children, including our lovely Yuan Yuan. I truly cherish this relationship, but now, it seems I'm just a complete joke. I thought Fu Yu was only acting out of character because of that high school crush, which is why he lost his composure upon learning Qingye had gone missing. But I never expected that after confirming Qingye's disappearance, he would grieve so intensely that his hair turned white overnight. Yet when Yuan Yuan went missing back then, he remained perfectly calm without showing the slightest sign of distress. So it turns out, one wouldn't like a child born from a woman they don't love either. In the end, it was Fu Yu who decided to help the Qing family search for the missing Qingye. I asked him, "What about our daughter? What about that daughter who was kidnapped by human traffickers and missing for 3 whole years?" Fu Yu avoided eye contact. "We've searched for Yuan Yuan for 3 years. That's long enough. But Qingye is different, she just went missing, maybe if we try harder, we can find her. That try harder lasted a lifetime. I spent my life looking for Yuan Yuan, while he spent his searching for Qingye. Because of this, we had countless conflicts. I urged him to give up. After all, Qingye had her own family and friends, her own parents searching for her. Yuan Yuan needed us more. But Fu Yu angrily scolded me. Shenyi, you're too selfish. Qingye is a living human being. How could we possibly abandon her? Disappointment, heartbreak, and hatred made me completely lose faith in this man. In our twilight years, we still hadn't found Yuan Yuan, and Qingye could only lie on their respective hospital beds. I looked at my daughter's photo while he gazed at Qingye's picture, his eyes filled with sorrow, a scene dripping with irony. If we could start over. I truly wish Yuan Yuan never had you as a father, because he truly didn't deserve it, too. But to my surprise, I actually got reborn, and I was reborn back to the very day my daughter was abducted by human traffickers. I rushed out the door, almost sprinting all the way, just wanting to save my Yuan Yuan before that damned trafficker appeared. Fortunately, before the trafficker could get close to Yuan Yuan, I finally managed to pick up the child first and shouted loudly, urging the negligent nanny to call the police immediately. A child trafficker sneaking into the neighborhood is a serious matter. Many residents feared the trafficker might have accomplices who could harm their children, so they gathered here, waiting for the police to arrive and ensure the trafficker faces legal consequences. I didn't leave either, but while waiting, I spotted Fu Yu rushing out from a distance, but at this time, he should have just returned from his business trip, exhausted, and currently adjusting to jet lag in the bedroom, sleeping until evening. It wasn't until the nanny couldn't find the child no matter how hard she searched that she had no choice but to inform me of Yuan Yuan's disappearance. It was upon hearing these words that Fu Yu suddenly woke up. But now, why does it feel somewhat different? Could it be that Fu Yu has also been reborn? But if Fu Yu had been reborn, he should know that the most urgent matter now is to save poor Yuan Yuan, not to panic and run out. But I didn't have time to think too much, because with the arrival of the police, I had to hold Yuan Yuan and go give a statement first. By the time we finished the procedures and returned home, it had already grown dark. Where's Daddy? Yuan Yuan held my hand as we entered the house, then immediately dashed into the bedroom. She adores Fu Yu, always clinging to his legs and calling him Daddy in her sweet, childish voice. But the bedroom was empty. Fu Yu still hadn't come home. Yuan Yuan felt somewhat disappointed, but being the obedient child she always was, she still managed to keep a smile on her face. Not seeing her father, she simply assumed it was like before, thinking he had too much work. I haven't finished reading my book yet. Daddy would be upset if he knew Yuan Yuan wasn't reading. She cheerfully ran to the living room, found herself a spot to sit down, and started reading the storybook attentively while holding it in her arms. The regrets from my past life make it impossible for me to bear being apart from Yuan Yuan even for a moment now. I held her in my arms as we sat in the living room. She turned her head and smiled at me, then gave me a kiss on the cheek. Don't be sad, Mommy. Daddy will be home from work soon. Yuan Yuan will wait with you. Perhaps it was because of memories from my past life, this man I once loved deeply, whom I hated for half a lifetime. Now that I've been reborn, even if everything returns to normal, I no longer want to wrong myself or my daughter. Divorce is inevitable. But Fu Yu's phone was completely unreachable, always powered off. It was as if he had vanished from the face of the earth. For a full day and night, I couldn't get in touch with Fu Yu. Was Daddy taken away by bad people? Though Yuan Yuan was young, she was more mature than her peers and could always keenly sense my emotions. She tugged at my skirt with her small hands, her eyes filled with sadness. I quickly bent down to hold her in my arms, whispering comfortingly, no, perhaps Daddy was delayed by something important, but the day after tomorrow is Yuan Yuan's birthday, and Daddy will definitely come back. Really? Her big round eyes were wide open, brimming with anticipation. 3. But the truth was, he went to find Qingye in the evening. I held Yuan Yuan while reading her bedtime storybook. When she fell asleep in my arms, I picked up my phone nearby, opened the social feed, and immediately saw Qingye's latest post. One picture, one line of text. The picture, a pair of hands wrapped around her waist, looking extremely intimate. Word, after going around in circles, I finally waited for your confession. On the index finger of the right hand, there is a scar, and quite amusingly, Fu Yu has one too. And in the comments section, everyone was wishing Qingye and that unseen man happiness and fulfillment. I glanced at the IP address below this WeChat Moments post. It's an island abroad. That place has long been known as the perfect spot for couples to check in. when Fu Yu and I first started dating, he said he would take me there for a trip and flaunt our love extravagantly, but he was too busy with work, so we had to wait. We waited until we got married, then waited until we had children. Year after year we waited. Yet it all came to nothing in the end. Now, Fu Yu has abandoned everything just to make up for that long-lost feeling in his heart, traveling abroad with his white moonlight in perfect bliss. I lowered my head to look at that photo, feeling not the slightest ripple of emotion in my heart. Perhaps it was too much disappointment in a past life. I've hurt, cried, and even made a scene. After the hysteria, when our eyes met, all that remained was disappointment and resentment. I opened that image, zoomed in, and then saved it. Since the decision to divorce has been made, I will definitely fight for Yuan Yuan's custody, and all the evidence that can prove his infidelity. I will keep backups, so that during the divorce, I can secure the maximum benefits for myself. 4. I had a lawyer draft the divorce agreement, but Fu Yu is currently abroad and has deliberately cut off all means of contact, so I can't immediately deliver the agreement to him. I can only wait for now and then tell my parents about this matter. But just as I expected, when I first mentioned wanting to divorce Fu Yu, my parents strongly objected. I didn't hide anything and directly told them about Fu Yu's affair. My mother stared at the photo in silence for a long time. Finally, she looked up at me with an unreadable expression in her eyes. Some things are better left unspoken. Let it go, and life will move on. Especially now that you have a daughter. For the child's sake, don't be so selfish. Okay, my own mother asked me to tolerate my husband's infidelity, for the sake of our child, though I'd known for a long time that my parents were equally cold-hearted, prioritizing work and family interests above all else, but I never expected that, even at this point, my happiness would still be outweighed by the ridiculous benefits brought by that arranged marriage. No, Mom, if I choose to muddle along, that would be true selfishness and irresponsibility. This is my life, not Yuan Yuan's. I can take good care of her all by myself, at least, whether Fu Yu was there or not. Those past few years made no difference anyway. I do feel guilty towards my Yuan Yuan, because I can't give her a complete family, but the one who caused all this is not me, so why should I be left alone to swallow the bitter fruit that Fu Yu planted? My father flew into a rage, slapped me, and said even if I got divorced, he would never let me come home again. If I divorce, I'll completely become shiny without a home. I couldn't hold back and shed a few tears. It's fine, consider it the end of our father-daughter bond. In any case, divorce is inevitable. I left with Yuan Yuan but didn't go straight home. Halfway through the drive, I couldn't contain my emotions anymore, so I found a quiet spot to park, in front of my daughter. I broke down and cried rather pathetically. Yuan Yuan was very well behaved. She unbuckled her own car seat, climbed to the front passenger side, and without saying a word, just reached out to gently pat my back. When I looked up, she took 2 tissues to wipe my tears. Mommy, don't be sad, Yuan Yuan is here. Yuan Yuan will always be here. Her voice still carried that sweet, childish tone. I looked at her and asked, if Mommy and Daddy have to separate, and you have to stay with Mommy, would you be okay with that? Yuan Yuan didn't answer immediately, but tilted her head as if thinking. After a long while, she asked me in return, would Mom be happy if we left Dad? Would the tears stop falling then? I didn't know how to answer her question. With a slightly choked voice, I murmured an Yuan Yuan immediately burst into laughter, stretching out her tiny hands to hug me, mimicking how I used to hold her. Yuan Yuan wants Mommy to be happy, doesn't want Mommy to cry. Daddy is bad, I don't want him either. Completely unable to hold back, I hugged Yuan Yuan tightly and started crying. The little girl was all smiles at first, but suddenly her lips quivered as if she'd suffered immense grievance, then buried herself in my arms and wept. Crying too intensely led to overwhelming emotions. And suddenly my chest started aching. Yuan Yuan also knows I have a heart condition. Immediately wiping away tears, she searched everywhere in the car for my medicine, but the chest pain was so severe that my vision began to blur, and I nearly fainted. Just before completely losing consciousness, I faintly saw Yuan Yuan frantically pick up my phone and imitate my actions to call Fu Yu, but the call never got through. 5. When I woke up, I found myself lying on a hospital bed. I was only dazed for a couple of seconds. I quickly got up from the hospital bed and looked around. Where's Yuan Yuan? Suddenly fell unconscious. I really worried something might happen to Yuan Yuan, because I truly can't bear the pain of losing her a second time. Perhaps hearing my voice, Yuan Yuan, who was sitting on the sofa, put down the picture book in her hands and came running to the hospital bed. I quickly held her in my arms. Yuan Yuan sat by the hospital bed, her eyes still glistening with tears. "Mom, you're finally awake." Her voice still carried a sob, yet she managed to smile sweetly as she leaned against me quietly, just watching me without saying another word. I asked her, "Yuan Yuan, who brought Mom to the hospital?" Yuan Yuan counted on her fingers as if recalling. "It was a very handsome uncle." As her words fell, someone happened to push open the ward door. The person spoke. "Awake." I instinctively looked toward the door, and upon clearly seeing who had arrived, couldn't help but widen my eyes before exclaiming, "Ji Yanli." Ji Yanli is also my high school classmate, but he and Fu Yu are completely different types. Fu Yu is aloof, like an unattainable flower on a high peak, sacred and inviolable, but Ji Yanli is sunny, always enthusiastic about people and things, with a constant smile on his face, warming everyone around him. Not only that, but we also grew up together. Grandpa Ji had always been fond of me since childhood. Back then, our families jokingly talked about arranging a childhood betrothal, but later I met Fu Yu and became completely devoted to following him around. Later on, Fu Yu and I officially became a couple, while Ji Yanli happened to receive an admission letter from a prestigious foreign university around that time and subsequently chose to study abroad. In my past life, Ji Yanli never chose to return to China, or perhaps he did come back. But at that time I was entirely preoccupied with my missing daughter and didn't pay much attention to anything else. So now, suddenly seeing him again, I feel as if a whole lifetime has passed between us. "You have a heart condition, and since childhood, doctors have warned you to avoid strong emotional fluctuations." Fortunately, this time I happened to be driving by. Ji Yanli peeled an apple for me, carefully cut it into small pieces, placed them on a plate, inserted toothpicks, then handed one piece to me and another to Yuan Yuan. Yuan Yuan thanked him and smiled innocently. "Uncle Ji, how did you know Mom always likes her apples cut into tiny pieces?" Ji Yanli gently tapped her nose with his finger, his gaze warm and smiling as he looked at me. "Just as always, though now with a hint of teasing. Since childhood, she's been the most pampered one. If it's not cut properly, would she even eat it?" Yuan Yuan shook her head. "But at home, Dad never cuts fruit for Mom. It's always Mom who prepares it and serves it to Dad." Hearing this, Ji Yanli stopped laughing. He stared at me quietly without saying a word, and we just locked eyes like that for a long time. "Hey, Ji Yanli, why have you been staring at me like that? It's making me feel a bit uneasy." I pretended to lower my head and eat some fruit, but Ji Yanli suddenly raised his hand and flicked my forehead. It still hurt quite a bit. "Ji Yanli, that really hurt. I'm still a patient, you know." I couldn't help but let out a loud cry. We were childhood sweethearts, as familiar with each other as could be. Apart from the initial awkwardness and surprise, we've now somewhat returned to our former ease. In front of Ji Yanli, I'm always unreasonable and deliberately bully him, and he would let me bully him, just like now. After I yelled at him, he simply pretended not to hear and then handed me another piece of apple. "Don't get worked up, have some more fruit." I directly grabbed the plate, stuffed 2 pieces into my mouth, but still couldn't help muttering, "Haven't seen each other for years, and the first thing you do is hit me without any explanation." Ji Yanli shrugged with a smile. "Can't help it. I've always enjoyed teasing you since we were kids." With that, he turned and walked out, saying he was going to find my attending physician. I kept my head down eating fruit, so I didn't hear what he said as he was leaving. "I can't bear to see you wrong yourself. If only I could knock some sense into that love-struck brain of yours." 6. There's nothing seriously wrong with my health. After waking up, the attending physician examined me again and then let me go home to rest. I've made up my mind to divorce. The marital home we currently live in is under Fu Yu's name, and I don't intend to stay. I plan to move out with Yuan Yuan. I own several properties under my name. I let Yuan Yuan pick her favorite one, and we're ready to move in directly. Ji Yanli knew about my divorce and my immediate moving plans. Without hesitation, he came to help. In less than a day, he moved all mine and Yuan Yuan's belongings to the new place. The new home is just 1 street away from the house where Ji Yanli currently lives. Yuan Yuan was overjoyed when she found out. "Do you like Uncle Ji very much?" At night, I held Yuan Yuan in my arms as she nestled against me, chattering endlessly about Ji Yanli. These past few days, Ji Yanli seems to have no work at all, coming over every day to mooch meals. Yuan Yuan hangs out with him as soon as school ends, and the two hit it off immediately, playing together wonderfully. On weekends, they even made plans to go out together, completely leaving me out. I feel like an extra. Yuan Yuan sensed my sadness and quickly hugged my neck. giving me 2 kisses. Uncle G is great, he's willing to play with me and is very patient, unlike Dad, who's always busy, forever busy. He didn't even come to my birthday yesterday. Uncle G stayed with me and gave me the birthday present I wanted most. If Uncle G were my dad, that would be great. By the end of Yuan Yuan's words, there was a trace of sadness in her eyes. A child's world is simple. Though she might not be clever enough yet, she could keenly sense Fu Yu's aloofness. In contrast, Ji Yanli gave her the paternal love she had never received before. My heart ached even more for my daughter as I held her tightly in my arms. Fu Yu truly doesn't deserve to be a father. 7. In the afternoon, when Yuan Yuan came back from school, she seemed somewhat unhappy. I asked her, but she barely responded to me. It wasn't until dinner time that she spoke up with a pitiful tone. The kindergarten is organizing a parent-child event, and several activities require Dad's participation. But Dad, I sighed and then said, it's okay, Mom can do it too. Yuan Yuan shook her head, still not very happy. She lowered her head to look at the rice in her bowl, lost in thought, when suddenly the doorbell rang. No need to guess, it was obviously someone coming to mooch a meal. The previously dejected daughter suddenly raised her head. Uncle G is here. After speaking, she immediately climbed down from the chair and went to open the door for Ji Yanli. Yuan Yuan is even more adorable today. Ji Yanli carried Yuan Yuan to the dining table, the two of them so familiar they resembled real father and daughter. I felt a pang of jealousy, staring resentfully at Ji Yanli. I went through life and death to bring this precious daughter into the world, yet she's so close to you, closer than to me. It's as if I had her for you. Ji Yanli's smile grew even brighter as he readily followed my lead, saying, that could work too. Consider her as born for me. I promise to raise this precious daughter well. I quickly snatched the child back from his arms. Dream on. This is my precious daughter. Yuan Yuan pinched my hand with a grown-up air and said, stop arguing. One is Dad, the other is Mom. Yuan Yuan loves you both. Indeed, they had already acknowledged each other as godfather and goddaughter several days prior. The two of them began playing along, addressing each other as godfather and darling goddaughter. Yuan Yuan looked at Ji Yanli, blinked her eyes, and suddenly asked, Mom, since he's already like a dad, can Uncle G be my dad and accompany me to the parent-child event? I looked at Ji Yanli, who was also gazing at me as if seeking my opinion. I hesitated for a moment before shaking my head in refusal. This probably isn't a good idea, but all the other kids' dads will be there, only my dad. He hasn't even called me in so long. Why can't Uncle G be my dad? Mom, I don't want to be laughed at by the other kids for being the child nobody's dad likes. The more my daughter spoke, the more upset she became, even shedding golden tears that broke my heart. Ji Yanli also quickly chimed in, Yuan Yuan is now my goddaughter. That bastard Fu Yu is enjoying himself abroad. Wouldn't it be better if I participated instead? Or do you want Yuan Yuan to be laughed at by the other kids? Naturally, I didn't want that. So for Monday's parent-child event, Ji Yanli took on the role of the father and went with me to the kindergarten. The games were all very simple. There are challenges testing the coordination between father and daughter, as well as the between parents. For example, what is Mom's favorite color? Ji Yanli, purple. What is Mom's favorite fruit? Ji Yanli, apples. What does Mom hate the most? Ji Yanli, she hates being lied to the most. Ji Yanli answered several questions correctly in the shortest time, and I couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. The host, played by a kindergarten teacher, held the script in her hand, smiled at the children, built up the atmosphere, and then asked the mother one final question. So, who is the person Dad loves the most? Many parents answered with their child's name. I also wrote Yuan Yuan's name, since for this type of question, one can only write a child's name, but Ji Yanli's answer was, you. Me. For a moment I didn't react, and couldn't help pointing at myself. The host smiled and said, it seems that Yuan Yuan's parents have a very good relationship. Among all the dads present, yours was the only different answer. For some reason, my heart suddenly started beating a little faster. Even after this segment ended, my heartbeat hadn't returned to normal. Ji Yanli held Yuan Yuan's hand and walked over to me, asking, what's wrong? Is your heart bothering you again? His voice was as gentle as ever, filled with genuine concern and inquiry in his eyes. I shook my head. Ji Yanli, why isn't your answer Yuan Yuan? Ji Yanli's smile faltered slightly before he replied, as Yuan Yuan's father, of course I love Yuan Yuan's mother the most, so, loving you, I don't see any problem with this answer. There's a problem, a huge problem indeed. My heartbeat quickened even more. 8. The next 2 months. I suspect Ji Yanli has completely treated my home as his own. Although when we were kids, our families were close, and we did spend a lot of time together, but now that we're all grown up, I'm even married with a child, we should maintain some boundaries. Ji Yanli remained unmoved and seriously retorted, aren't you already preparing for a divorce by mutual agreement, or are you just playing hard to get, wanting to rekindle things? If that's the case, I'll really lose respect for you, Shani. If someone isn't right for you, you have to let them go. No. I just genuinely thought we should avoid any appearance of impropriety. I never said I'd hesitate, but after saying that, Ji Yanli inexplicably got angry, carried Yuan Yuan to her room, and completely ignored me. It wasn't until dinner that I repeatedly assured him I absolutely wouldn't hesitate. He finally let out a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, it's not beyond saving yet. Listening to his words, I forced a hollow smile. Ji Yanli, do I not deserve to save face? Yuan Yuan sat between us, resting her chin on her little hands, watching us with a beaming smile, her eyes brimming with happiness. If time could just stop at this moment, I'd have this illusion that this seems to be the happiness I once longed for. Unfortunately, I still have to return to reality in the end. In the 3rd month, Fu Yu and Qingye finally ended their trip and chose to return home. Fu Yu, who had just returned to the country, finally remembered his pitiful daughter from his previous life. So the first thing he did upon returning was to come to the kindergarten gate, intending to pick up Yuan Yuan after school. I'd bumped into him right at the kindergarten entrance. Fu Yu was still holding a doll in his arms, the kind of toy Yuan Yuan disliked the most. When he saw me, his expression showed a hint of guilt and unease. Shani, there was an urgent matter at the company. I had to go abroad in a hurry, so I forgot to tell you. I casually murmured in agreement, clearly going abroad for a romantic getaway with his lover, yet insisting it was for work. Not a single word of truth from his mouth, only making me despise him even more. But it doesn't matter. Once he signs the divorce papers, he can do whatever he wants, perhaps sensing my indifference. Or perhaps he was genuinely feeling guilty. He grew uncharacteristically flustered and tried to explain himself to me. I didn't want to listen and directly cut him off. It's time, Yuan Yuan will be out soon. Only then did Fu Yu close his mouth, holding the ugly doll in his arms as he waited to greet his daughter coming out of school. Yuan Yuan was initially overjoyed, but the moment she saw Fu Yu, the smile instantly vanished from her face, and her running little steps slowed to a cautious walk. Yuan Yuan, look what Daddy brought for you. Yuan Yuan was always his own flesh and blood, connected by the same lifeblood. Family and lovers were different from the very beginning. He could treat me with indifference, but he couldn't face his daughter without feeling genuine remorse. Yuan Yuan took one look at that ugly doll and immediately showed her disdain. In the past, even if Fu Yu often gave her toys she didn't like, for the sake of that pitiful paternal love, Yuan Yuan would still reluctantly accept them and say she liked them. But during this period, she spent all her time with Ji Yanli. Ji Yanli was never one to compromise himself, making his likes and dislikes exceptionally clear. He would never stoop to compromising himself just to please others. So, if he didn't like something, he would loudly say no. Nowadays, Yuan Yuan no longer pretends to be delighted just to save Fu Yu's face. Instead, she simply acts like she didn't see him and walks straight to my side. Mom, are you the only one picking me up from school today? There was a hint of expectation in her eyes. Ji Yanli had promised her yesterday that he would come pick her up from school with me today, but in the afternoon, the Ji family suddenly called, sounding like something major had happened. Ji Yanli rushed home in a hurry, only saying he'd return as soon as possible without specifying an exact time. I was just thinking about how to broach the subject with her when Fu Yu walked over holding a doll again. Yuan Yuan, why are you ignoring Daddy? This is a doll Daddy specially bought for you. Do you like it? When Fu Yu handed the doll over, a small receipt accidentally fell out. I glanced down and saw the purchase location on the receipt was at the airport. Clearly, Fu Yu only remembered he had a daughter after returning to the country. Quite laughable. Yuan Yuan is young and doesn't know many characters, unaware of what the airport purchase represents, but she's no fool. She can still tell the difference between genuine care and mere pretense. Yuan Yuan looked at Fu Yu in front of her, pursing her lips without speaking for a long time. I could tell she was somewhat angry and wanted to refuse, yet she was also concerned about Fu Yu's feelings, making her very conflicted. I was just about to speak up and refuse on her behalf. Yuan Yuan suddenly caught sight of something, her eyes lighting up for a brief moment, then she pushed away Fu Yu, who was trying to hug her, and took 2 steps back. I stopped liking these kinds of dolls a long time ago. Also, lying is bad behavior. I saw on mom's phone that you went out to have fun, it wasn't work at all. Lastly, I have a new dad now. If you don't like me and mom, that's fine, I don't really need you either. After saying this, Yuan Yuan grabbed my hand and ran off to the side. With just a turn, I saw Ji Yanli standing by the car, waving at Yuan Yuan at that moment. Daddy, Yuan Yuan trotted over and threw herself into Ji Yanli's arms, wrapping her arms around his neck and planting a loud kiss on his cheek. Before, although he was just a sworn godfather, most of the time, Yuan Yuan would still only call him uncle, but given how she acted today, if she weren't so young, I'd genuinely suspect she was provoking Fuyu. Though looking at Fuyu's face, dark as the bottom of a pot, I have to admit, it felt pretty satisfying. Meanwhile, Ji Yanli, with his somewhat crude temperament, simply carried his daughter right up to him, his gaze openly challenging. My daughter hates this ugly doll the most, stop sending it, it's embarrassing. 9. Shani, I think you owe me an explanation. Fuyu went to my new home. He stood in the living room holding a photo of me with Yuan Yuan and Ji Yanli, his eyes filled with indignation. That photo was taken last weekend when we went out for a picnic together. Yuan Yuan had wanted to go camping for a long time, but Fuyu always dismissed it as too childish, using work as an excuse to refuse each time. Yet this time, while traveling abroad with Qingye, he even took photos of them camping together. That day, I stared at the photos in a daze, not noticing that my daughter had suddenly woken up. She saw them. Though she didn't say a word, her eyes turned red and her pillow became wet. So when Ji Yanli learned about this, he immediately cancelled his work and took Yuan Yuan camping. We all had a great time that day, with Yuan Yuan's face beaming with smiles, a long-lost sense of fulfillment and joy. As my thoughts gradually returned to the present, I looked at Fuyu before me, now truly unable to stir even the slightest ripple in my heart. Fuyu, this is really quite pointless. In my past life, consumed by hysteria, I looked at my frenzied reflection in the mirror and found it utterly detestable. So in this lifetime, I don't want to make any fuss at all, nor do I want to argue with him. I don't want to leave behind a crazy impression. Let's just part on good terms. Fuyu's eyes narrowed as he grabbed the photo frame and smashed it violently onto the ground. Shani, it's only been 3 months, and you're already entangled with another man while taking my daughter with you. Do you think I'm dead? The glass frame shattered instantly, and the daughter doing homework in the room burst into terrified sobs at the commotion. I quickly went into the room to carry her out, soothing her softly while covering her ears, then confronted Fuyu. What's the difference between you and being dead? I stared at him coldly, no longer caring for a peaceful breakup, and directly tore off the last shred of pretense. Fuyu, do you really think I know nothing? That I don't know where you've been these past 3 months? You missed our daughter's birthday, you missed the kindergarten parent-child event, you still weren't there when I was hospitalized. When we needed you the most, you were traveling abroad with another woman, then came back with some flimsy excuse, trying to fool me and Yuan Yuan, who exactly is treating whom like a fool. Fuyu, how dare you even question me? Hearing this, Fuyu, who had been quite confident just moments ago, suddenly became somewhat flustered. No, that's not it, I really do have something going on, and Qingye and I aren't in the kind of relationship you're thinking of. It's just that I don't know how to explain it, I just wanted to fulfill a dream of hers. He cut off all contact and indeed left no trace of suspicion. But Qingye's social media updates were posted in real time every day, flaunting their relationship with great fanfare. Even though there were no photos of them together, he would deliberately capture those obvious telltale signs each time. The necklace that Fuyu never takes off, the red mole on Fuyu's neck, there's a long scar on Fuyu's abdomen. There were too many. So many that Yuan Yuan knew at a glance that the man in the photo was her father. I'm such a disappointment. The moment I took the divorce papers out of the room, tears still fell, but what can be done about it? I absolutely won't jump into the same fire pit twice, so I directly slapped the divorce agreement in his face and said resolutely, Fuyu, let's get divorced. 10. At first, Fuyu shook his head without hesitation to refuse. Shani, what kind of joke are you making? Our marriage isn't just about the two of us. It involves 2 family businesses, and there's also Yuan Yuan, for the sake of our child. Can't you stop being so selfish? These words felt strangely familiar. Suddenly I remembered my past life. When he told me to give up searching for our daughter, I refused, and he called me selfish. And when I didn't want him to look for Qingye, he still called me selfish. How ridiculous. Whether for my own sake or for our daughters, I don't believe maintaining a marriage with a man who constantly cheats would be fair to anyone. At the very least, the fault lies with you. not me, it's Fu Yu. Who proposed to me first, yet his heart belongs to someone else. It's Fu Yu, whose biological daughter disappeared, yet he's still thinking about his white moonlight. It's still Fu Yu, even after rebirth, his first choice remains Qingya. I've already signed the divorce papers. Since he was at fault, the reasonable benefits I fought for don't make me greedy. After all, these are for my daughter. Fu Yu, if you have any dignity left, stop clinging. Divorce would be best for both of us. Fu Yu held the divorce papers, his eyes seemingly wounded, though I wished I'd misread them. He said, Shani, after all these years together, can you really just walk away with a divorce? I echoed his words, retorting, Fu Yu, after all these years together, was there ever a moment when your heart didn't belong to another woman? He fell silent. In the end, Fu Yu signed that document. Those photos in the social circle were irrefutable evidence. Proof he couldn't possibly find an excuse to counter. Infidelity and betrayal were indisputable facts now. Continuing this entanglement won't leave either of us looking good. Fu Yu is a businessman, and he understands this principle too. After the divorce, I suddenly felt a sense of relief. When leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, I made sure to dress up nicely, planning to go celebrate, but before turning away, Fu Yu grabbed my wrist. Shani, no matter what. We've been husband and wife for 7 years, and Yuan Yuan, she will always be my most beloved daughter. If anything comes up in the future, you can always come to me. No need, she has me and that's enough. Before Fu Yu could finish speaking, Chu Yian emerged from nowhere with Yuan Yuan in tow. He directly reached out and pulled me over. Losing my balance, I fell straight into Chu Yian's arms. Yuan Yuan covered her eyes with her tiny hands but deliberately peeked through the gaps, her little mouth curling into a happy smile. As for Fu Yu, his eyes held an indescribable complexity and resentment. Chu Yian, this is my family matter. What constitutes a family matter? Chu Yian directly interrupted Fu Yu's words, unhesitatingly confronting him. Is it abandoning your wife and daughter domestically while traveling abroad with another woman? Or being invisible when your wife and daughter need you? If this is what you call family matters, then sorry, as an outsider, I fucking despise this behavior of yours. With that, Chu Yian threw a punch straight to his face. 11. Chu Yian, are you crazy? Why did you hit him? While applying medicine to his wounds, I scolded him. The punch thrown at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau left Fu Yu stunned for just a moment before he swung back. Both had trained in boxing since childhood. Every strike landed with brutal precision. Holding my daughter, I simply couldn't intervene. I could only watch as the two of them came to blows, exchanging punches and slaps until both were covered in blood staining their clothes. When the staff at the Civil Affairs Bureau noticed, they quickly sent people to break up the fight, only to get accidentally injured themselves. In the end, both were hauled off to the police station. With no other choice, I had to quickly bail Chu Yian out. As for Fu Yu, since we're already divorced, everything related to him from now on has nothing to do with me. Naturally, things like bail don't require my involvement. I just couldn't stand by and watch him bully you. Chu Yian's face was bruised, with a heavy black eye from being punched in the corner of his eye. There were also bruises at the corner of his mouth, and his cheek was scraped. In short, he looked quite a mess, but Fu Yu had it worse, covered in blood. Even if you can't stand it, there's no need to resort to violence. You still care about him. Chu Yian's eyes dimmed momentarily. As I applied medicine to his wounds, I suddenly pressed harder. He yelped in pain before I spoke. I just think it's not worth dirtying your hands for someone like him. Chu Yian resumed his previous smile and gently shook his head. No, for you, I think it's worth it. With a plop sound, the cotton swab in my hand fell to the ground. Just like before, my heart inexplicably started racing. These words sounded somewhat, I couldn't tell if it was just my imagination, so I didn't respond further, just kept my head down while wiping the wounds on his face. The air suddenly fell silent. It felt somewhat eerie. In the end, it was Chu Yian who lost his composure first, grabbing my hand and forcing me to meet his gaze. His eyes filled with seriousness. He asked, Shani, you do understand what I mean, don't you? Do you understand? Maybe just a little bit, but, Chu Yian, I was married, then divorced. It took me nearly 10 years to prove I was blind and loved the wrong person. I also have a daughter. She's the most important person in my life. I will never be separated from her, nor will I let her suffer any grievances. So, do you understand what I mean? The world isn't always fair. A divorced woman with a child standing next to a successful, handsome man, everyone would say they're mismatched. And I would never let my daughter suffer any grievances. I thought my words would make Ji Yanli back off, but instead he became even more serious. So what if you've been married before? It was Fu Yu who was blind, who cheated and wronged you. You never did anything to betray him. And Yuan Yuan, she's adorable. She calls me daddy. She's your daughter, and she'll also be the daughter I cherish most. No one will ever make her suffer in front of me, I promise. So, do you understand what I'm trying to say? 12. Whether I understood or not, I'm not sure. All I know is that in the end, I fled in panic, and the matter was left unresolved. Ji Yanli's words came too suddenly. I had absolutely no mental preparation, so of course I couldn't give an immediate answer. He was well aware of it, so he didn't come looking for me again in the following week. It gave me time to think. As for Fu Yu, after divorcing me, he officially announced his relationship with Qingye. The two openly flaunted their affection on social media. Qingye, who had previously only pretended to unintentionally post those photos, now went all out by directly sending me various pictures privately, along with all sorts of warnings. Fu Yu is now my boyfriend. Even if you have a daughter together, please know your boundaries and don't be a homewrecker. How ridiculous, I directly replied. So you do know being a homewrecker is a shameless thing. Furious with me, she chose to block me directly. That's actually for the best. In short, for the next few months, I didn't deliberately pay attention to Fu Yu's situation, just focused on living my own life. Friends around me would occasionally mention them when we met. At first, they were indignant on my behalf, saying they were deliberately flaunting their relationship just to show off in front of me. Later, they said the couple started arguing over all sorts of trivial matters, quarreling incessantly. But none of this mattered to me anymore, because my heart is in turmoil right now. I still can't bring myself to respond. Ji Yanli also had to go abroad for a business trip due to urgent matters at the overseas branch, and he'll be gone for several months, though I suspect he might be deliberately avoiding me. Because of this, Yuan Yuan couldn't eat or sleep properly for a while. Every day after kindergarten, she'd call Ji Yanli to tell him all the fun things that happened. And he would always listen attentively without ever brushing her off. Just like that, another 3 months passed. Ji Yanli returned to the country, bringing a whole suitcase of toys, all of which were Yuan Yuan's favorites. The moment he saw me, without even half a word of small talk, he got straight to the point. Shani, I gave you 3 months to think it over. Can you give me your answer now? I kept my head down, unable to respond for a long time, because I truly didn't know how to respond to Ji Yanli's feelings. After all, I had just emerged from a failed marriage, and I didn't know whether what awaited me next would be sunshine after the rain or another abyss. I'm really afraid. 13. But I didn't hesitate for too long. I took Yuan Yuan to the mall to buy clothes, and she took out her New Year's money, saying she wanted to pick a gift for Ji Yanli. Clinging to Ji Yanli, refusing to let go no matter what. In the end, the three of us had to go shopping at the mall together. As luck would have it, I happened to see Fu Yu in the mall, with Qingye by his side. The two were in a children's clothing store, with Fu Yu holding a beautiful little dress that looked like it was meant for Yuan Yuan. Qingye's face looked very unpleasant. She snatched the dress from Fu Yu's hands and threw it violently to the ground. Even though they were several shops away, I could still clearly hear their conversation. Fu Yu, get this straight, you and Shani are already divorced. The child is with her too. There's no need for you to buy clothes for Fu Yuan every time we go shopping together. Qingye was furious, her beautiful face contorted with anger. The once inseparable couple now fights with such ferocity, and Fu Yu, contrary to my expectations, showed no signs of concession or restraint. The deep affection I once saw in his eyes was fading bit by bit, replaced by impatience as he retorted. So what if we're divorced? Yuan Yuan will always be my daughter. If it weren't for being with you, how could Yuan Yuan have ended up without a father? Now, when I buy her some clothes, it's just my way of making it up to her. Don't be so selfish. Selfish, me. Qingye pointed at herself and suddenly burst into laughter. Fu Yu, who's really the selfish one here? I was ready to give up on you, but you rushed overseas without a care, pouring out your heart about how I'm the woman you love most in this life. That's what moved me. Even if it meant being labeled a homewrecker, I chose to be with you. Now that you're finally divorced, you're suddenly hung up on Shani and Fu Yuan Yuan, sneaking looks at their photos every night behind my back. What do you take me for? Her voice was far too loud. It wasn't just me. Others in the mall couldn't help but glance over, their eyes alight with gossip. Fu Yu had always been one to care about appearances. Seeing the gathered stares, she didn't even care about buying the dress anymore. Immediately grabbing Qingye's hand to leave, but Qingye wouldn't have it, forcefully shaking off his grip and forcing him to make a choice. Fu Yu, today I demand you make it clear to me, do you want to live properly with me, or do you want to remarry your ex-wife? To give your precious daughter a complete family, make it clear, make it clear. How exactly do you want me to make it clear? I've said it 10,000 times, Shenyi and I are already divorced, but Yuan Yuan is still my flesh and blood after all, I can't just abandon her. Why must you put me in such a difficult position? You used to be so understanding, but now you're so selfish, forcing poor little Yuan Yuan to lose even the last shred of familial affection. The finale of this farce was Qingye slapping him hard in front of everyone. Fu Yu's face turned ashen as he turned to leave, only to lock eyes with me in that instant. 14. No words were exchanged. Perhaps he himself felt ashamed. Our gazes met briefly before he turned away decisively. Without the slightest hesitation, Ji Yanli took Yuan Yuan and me to that children's clothing store, where we picked out over a dozen dresses, all of which she adored. I'll buy all these for you later, we don't need his. Ji Yanli reached out and gently pinched Yuan Yuan's cheek, making sure there was no trace of resistance in her eyes before waving his hand grandly to buy even more dresses. When I got home, I immediately spotted Fu Yu sitting in the hallway, clearly having drunk alcohol. The slap mark on his face was still quite visible. Yuan Yuan had fallen asleep in my arms. I didn't let Ji Yanli see me home as he had work tomorrow and needed to rest early. I opened the door and placed Yuan Yuan in his little bed. Fu Yu stood at the doorway, reeking of alcohol, his eyes fixed on me with an inexplicable look of grievance. What do you want? My voice was icy, and the grievance in his eyes grew even more pronounced. In the past, whenever I came home drunk from social engagements, you'd personally prepare ginger tea for me. You've never spoken to me in such a cold tone before. He spoke, sounding both sad and aggrieved. But the truth has proven that you only ever trampled on my kindness toward you, haven't you? Perhaps my voice was too cold enough to slightly sober his lust-clouded mind. I tried to close the door, but he pressed his hand against the frame, his eyes showing a hint of confusion. Shenyi, if I hadn't agreed to the divorce back then, would we still be like before, a happy family? There are no ifs in this world. If you remain who you are, there will never be a different outcome. Just like a dog can never stop eating shit, Fu Yu could never suppress that restless heart of his. What you can't have always stirs desire. That's why in his past life he could search for Qingye for 50 years, and in this life, because of my resolute divorce, he revealed his regret. But either way, it only makes me feel disgusted. His heart is not good. Wanting everything will only lead to gaining nothing. 15. That night, Yuan Yuan inexplicably developed a high fever, her entire body burning hot. She even started having convulsions. I quickly picked her up, intending to drive to the hospital, but at the entrance of the neighborhood, I saw Ji Yanli sitting by the flower bed, lost in thought. He noticed me too, along with the unconscious Yuan Yuan. I was so nervous that my hands were shaking uncontrollably, making it impossible to drive properly. It's okay, it's normal for children to have fevers. I'll take her to the hospital right now. Don't be nervous, and don't cry. Yuan Yuan will definitely be fine. Ji Yanli comforted me while quickly driving to the hospital. Fortunately, Yuan Yuan's health is fine. It was just a severe viral infection that requires careful attention afterward. After hearing the doctor's explanation, I finally let out a long sigh of relief. Throughout the night, Ji Yanli was busy taking care of everything. He soothed Yuan Yuan to sleep, then had me rest on the adjacent hospital bed while he watched over the child all night. We had agreed to take shifts, but by the time I woke up, it was already broad daylight. Dark circles hung heavily under his eyes as he covered a yawn. Seeing me awake, he lowered his voice and said, "Why not sleep a little longer? I'll go buy breakfast. What would you like?" Ji Yanli's voice when he spoke was truly gentle, so gentle that, in a moment of impulse, I blurted out, "Ji Yanli, let's give it a try. If this is still an abyss, I can only say that I'm destined to be unworthy of any happiness." 16. After confirming their relationship, Ji Yanli immediately started showing off like a peacock spreading its tail, insisting on posting it on social media to declare his claim. He even directly moved his belongings over. Fortunately, the apartment Yuan Yuan chose was spacious enough with many empty rooms, so he could pick anyone to stay in. The first day Ji Yanli moved in, Yuan Yuan was so excited that she immediately took out her phone and said she wanted to take a family photo. 5 minutes after the photo was sent out, an unknown number called directly. but at that time I was taking a shower in the bathroom, my phone was left in the living room, and it was Ji Yanli who answered. I could faintly hear the sound of him speaking, looking for she's taking a shower and is too tired. Please call back tomorrow, she is indeed exhausted. Yuan Yuan is full of energy and kept me playing all day, my bones are about to fall apart. After the shower, Ji Yanli handed me the phone with a sour expression. It's from him. Oh, Fu Yu, then there's no need to call back. I simply tossed the phone onto the sofa and turned to go back to my room to dry my hair. Half an hour later, the takeout I ordered arrived at the door, just stepping out to grab takeout when someone grabs my wrist. Shani, are you with Ji Yanli now? Fu Yu's first words were an accusation. I forcefully shake off his hand. Who I'm with is none of your business, yet he frowns, his eyes filled with confusion. We haven't even been divorced for half a year, how could you be with someone else already? Back then you clearly loved me so much, swore you'd marry no one but me, we even had Yuan Yuan together, you said we'd be together forever. Did you ever truly love me at all, Fu Yu? I couldn't help but growl through clenched teeth. I've always known how selfish you are, but I never imagined your ability to distort the truth could be this strong. You were the one who cheated first, and now you're trying to pin the blame on me. Yes, I'm with Ji Yanli now. We're open and honest about it, with nothing to hide. Fu Yu persisted relentlessly. You've been with me for 10 years, and we even have a child together. How could he possibly not mind? How could he genuinely treat Yuan Yuan well, unable to hold back? I reached out and slapped him across the face. Don't think that just because you're filthy, the whole world is as dirty as you are. Ji Yanli is different from you. He truly loves me, and that's why he's willing to love what I love. Ji Yanli once said, Shani, Yuan Yuan is your daughter. I love you, and I will love what you love. Fu Yu fell silent, leaning against the wall with slightly slumped shoulders. It took him a long while before he finally spoke. His voice so soft I could barely make out his words. If I were to regret this, would you give me another chance? I replied, don't humiliate yourself. 17. A month later, I heard the happy news of Fu Yu and Qingye's engagement. After all, it's been over half a year since our divorce. The Fu family wants a new daughter-in-law and even more so, a grandchild. The night before they registered their marriage, Fu Yu sent me a long message. I didn't read it carefully, but the gist was that he missed the life we had together, with our well-behaved and understanding daughter. If I was willing, he would remarry me and we could take care of Yuan Yuan together. I didn't reply, feeling it wasn't necessary. They got married and divorced in less than a month. Qingye was always a sensitive person, prone to magnifying trivial matters into overwhelming emotions, let alone Fu Yu, now overwhelmed with guilt. Constantly seeking opportunities to see Yuan Yuan, arguments between them became inevitable. The more loving they were before, the fiercer their fights became now. But none of this has anything to do with me. I'm going to marry Ji Yanli. But on the wedding day, Qingye rushed in wearing a white dress, barged into the dressing room without hesitation, and tried to hit me. Ji Yanli immediately shielded me, preventing her from succeeding. Shani, how can you be so shameless? You've already divorced Fu Yu, yet you keep pestering him all day, making him think about that little bastard. If it weren't for you two, we wouldn't have ended up divorced. She's really mastered the art of turning the tables, a skill she undoubtedly learned from Fu Yu. During the existence of my marriage with Fu Yu, you shamelessly played the role of the other woman. After our divorce, we had almost no contact. The fact that your relationship is unstable, with constant arguments, only proves the fragility of your bond. Qingye, what makes you any better? Coming here to make a scene simply shows you can't bear to see me happy, because you're miserable and ugly inside. You want the whole world to share in your misfortune. But why should they? You're the one who violated moral principles. You deserve to be punished. The more you act out now, the more everyone will see you as getting exactly what you deserve. I fired back at her fiercely, and she was so angry she tried to hit me again, but Ji Yanli consistently shielded me. She couldn't lay a finger on me. Upon hearing the news, Fu Yu hurried over as well, grabbing Qingye. His impatience surfaced in his eyes. What exactly are you making a scene about? If it weren't for your constant paranoia, we wouldn't have reached this point. And now you come looking for Shani. What right do you have to seek her out? You chose to be the other woman, don't forget that. That's some harsh scolding. Fu Yu has always been this cold and heartless. Thankfully, I managed to extricate myself in time this lifetime, otherwise, it would be truly tragic. With that, Fu Yu turned to look at me. By then I had already changed into my wedding dress, becoming a beautiful bride. His eyes flickered with an unreadable emotion, as if lost in thought. Pressing his lips together with a hint of sorrow, he asked, "Shani, are you really sure about this?" I didn't answer. But the happy smile on my face had already answered for me. He continued, "If I were to elope with you right now, would you be willing to leave with me?" Chu Yanli's face turned ashen, his fists clenched tightly. If I hadn't stopped him, he would have already punched Fuyu in the face. I stepped closer and whispered, "Just between us, in our past life, you made me feel utterly disgusted. Now that we've both been reborn in this lifetime, let's not cross paths again, Fuyu. Are you really willing to throw away the last shred of your dignity?" He froze, his eyes widening in shock. I ignored him further. The auspicious hour was approaching, and I needed to get to the wedding venue. Thus, I didn't know that after hearing my words, Chu Yanli became utterly distraught and walked out of the hotel as if he'd lost his soul. However, Qingye hadn't left. Instead, she unleashed her pent-up grievances, throwing punch after punch at him. The two of them tangled together, fighting and scuffling. By the roadside, someone lost their footing and both tumbled down the steps. An off-road vehicle sped past. However, I don't know any of this yet. Now I'm feeling a bit nervous. The gate opened, and I saw Chu Yanli standing at the end of the long corridor, smiling at me. My daughter was dressed as a little flower girl, holding my hand. She led me step by step toward Chu Yanli, toward true happiness. Yuan Yuan side story. What if I told you I was reborn? Just like in those TV dramas, wouldn't that be a shocking thing to hear? That high fever made me remember many things. Though I was 5 years old, I carried memories of being 16. As for why it was 16, because in my past life, I only lived that long. Looking back now, that damned human trafficker sold me to a childless couple. Within a year they conceived their own child, then discarded me for not being their biological offspring. I don't remember the specific details clearly. Anyway, I was sold again, sold repeatedly several times, whether it was deliberately breaking my arms and legs to make me beg on the streets. Yet he watched coldly, as if looking at a clown. I feel really terrible. I remember where home is, remember my parents' names, remember past happiness and warmth. I clearly remember everything, but there's no way out. Someone is watching day and night, and I can't find the slightest chance to escape. But heaven had given me one chance before. Just before being sold for the last time, I saw my father on the street. At that time, my father's face was full of exhaustion. I thought it was because of my disappearance that he had grown so haggard. He passed right by me. I shouted desperately, but he didn't recognize me. Not only did he not recognize me, but he also kicked me, saying I dirted his pants. He said, "This is a gift from Qingye to me, you little beggar. Don't you dare touch me." Who is Qingye? I don't know. I just saw the missing person notice in Dad's hand. The photo and name on it weren't mine, and the person he was looking for wasn't me either. My tongue had been cut out, leaving me unable to speak. My muffled cries only earned his disgust, and the trafficker's fury. This time, my luck ran out completely. I was sold into the deep mountains as an old man's bride, 16 years old, an age as beautiful as flowers. Yet she died from postpartum hemorrhage during childbirth. It hurt so much. So when I realized I had been reborn, I was truly overjoyed, yet also quite sorrowful. I know Mom never gave up on me. I also know Dad's heart belongs to another woman, but Uncle G's appearance made me feel happiness isn't so far away after all. Dad wasn't a good father, but Uncle G can give Mom the happiness she wants, and he can become my dad too. Suddenly I feel like I'm actually quite lucky. At least in this lifetime, I can still have a complete and happy family, me, Mom, and Dad, Chu Yanli. We will all be very happy. Story 2. On our 3rd wedding anniversary, Chu Yian brought home the younger sister of his deceased brother to take care of. I didn't agree. Does your so-called care necessarily mean that she has to live in our house? Chu Yian said I was heartless. Despite my objection, he left Chen Nanyue behind. I couldn't bear it. I quarreled with him again and fell into Chen Nanyue's trap. It wasn't until Chen Nanyue and I were kidnapped at the same time, and Chu Yian only saved her, that I realized that Chu Yian, who had once said he only loved me, had already changed his heart. After being reborn, I no longer longed for Chu Yan's love. When he brought Chen Nanyue home, I smiled and said, "Sure." 1. I waited in the restaurant until 10 o'clock. When the waiter reminded me that the restaurant was about to close, I received a message on my phone. It was from Chu Yian. "Yu, I'm waiting for you at home." The moment I saw the message, my fingers curled up suddenly. Then they kept trembling, my eyes turned red. I was reborn. On the night of my 3rd wedding anniversary with Chu Yian. To celebrate, Chu Yian booked the entire restaurant and decorated it carefully. I attended in full dress, but Chu Yian didn't come. His good brother Chen Rui had a sudden accident and passed away. Before he died, he asked Chu Yian to take good care of his younger sister, Chen Nanyue. Chu Yian took it very seriously. He brought Chen Nanyue home that night. Even the explanation was exactly the same as in my previous life. Nanyue has no family left. I can't just ignore her. How did I respond to Chu Yian in my previous life? I opposed and accused him hysterically. Does your so-called care necessarily mean that she has to live in our house? We are husband and wife. Why don't you respect my thoughts? In response to me, there were only Chen Nanyue's aggrieved tears and Chu Yan's cold rebuke. Qingyu, you're really heartless. Despite my objection, he let Chen Nanyue stay in the house. Later, because of Chen Nanyue, Chu Yian and I had countless quarrels and misunderstandings. I tried every means to bring back the Chu Yian who loved me. But compared with the delicate and pitiful Chen Nanyue, my accusations and grievances all turned into vexatious behavior in Chu Yan's eyes. Chen Nanyue threw away the kitten that I had raised for 2 years, and Chu Yian couldn't bear to scold her even once. When Chen Nanyue and I were kidnapped together, Chu Yian didn't hesitate to abandon me and save her. So in this life, when facing the serious-looking Chu Yian and Chen Nanyue, who was hiding behind him and crying aggrievedly, I just smiled slightly. Sure, since you've decided, let her stay. Chu Yan's pupils shrank, and he was skeptical. Yu, do you really agree? I turned my head and smiled. She's the younger sister of your good brother. It's right for you to take care of her. I'm your wife. I believe you have a sense of propriety, so why should I refuse? Chu Yian opened his mouth but didn't say anything. I instructed the housekeeper to clean up the guest room on the first floor for Chen Nanyue. In my previous life, after having a big quarrel with me, Chu Yian deliberately went against me and let Chen Nanyue live on the second floor. Since opposition is ineffective, then I'll take the initiative. Chu Yian feels guilty towards me and won't refute me at this time. 2. That night, I didn't let Chu Yian sleep with me. He thought I was throwing a tantrum and said some harsh words. Only after hearing my coughing did he remember the fact that I had sat alone in the cold wind of the open-air restaurant for a whole night. Then, feeling guilty, he instructed the housekeeper to prepare cold medicine for me. He promised repeatedly that he wouldn't stand me up again in the future. I responded listlessly with an Chu Yan's movements were stiff, but he didn't say anything more. After tucking the quilt in for me, he tiptoed to the guest room next door. Finally, there was peace. I turned over. The next second, I hugged Xiaoguai and fell asleep. It wasn't because of the cold. It was because before I died in my previous life, I was tied up in a cold factory building for a full 2 days. I didn't dare to sleep or cry. My nerves had been tense for too long, and I couldn't take it anymore. So I slept especially soundly this time. I didn't wake up until almost noon the next day. Chen Nanyue was sitting on the sofa in the living room packing her luggage. When she heard me coming downstairs, she just looked up at me, but she didn't take the initiative to greet me. Instead, she continued to pack her clothes methodically and even instructed the housekeeper to make her a cup of coffee. She acted like the mistress of the house. In my previous life, when faced with her provocation, I was like a balloon that would explode at the slightest touch and quarreled with her. During the argument, she deliberately fell to the ground, and Chu Yian, who happened to come home to get some documents, saw it. He asked me to apologize without asking the cause and effect. Naturally, I refused. As a result, Chu Yian ignored me for half a month. Now, facing her rather clumsy little trick, I was no longer angry. I ignored her and walked into the dining room. Without my instruction, the housekeeper took the initiative to bring breakfast. It was obvious who the mistress of the house was. Chen Nanyue blushed with anger. She threw her luggage around, making cracking noises. The housekeeper frowned. He had just taken a step in that direction when I stopped him with a glance. Amid Chen Nanyue's protesting voice, I happily finished the first warm meal after being reborn. Xiaoguai stretched and moved to my feet, meowing. I picked it up and held it in my arms, looking at the warm autumn sunlight. It was really comfortable. 3. Chu Yian should have instructed the housekeeper a long time ago, so as soon as I finished my breakfast, the housekeeper opened the door and let the staff in. She finally managed to pack up the things that Chen Nanyue had left in the living room and send them back to her room as she wished. Then she instructed the staff to place Chu Yian's gifts one by one in the living room. Top luxury jewelry, high-end customized dresses, limited edition handbags, the latest sports cars. There were a dazzling array of things, all anniversary gifts that Chu Yian had given me out of guilt. I didn't feel much about it, but Chen Nanyue was jealous. Sister Qingyu, You're really lucky to be able to marry Brother Yen, you can enjoy a luxurious life without having to do anything. I was silent for a moment and corrected her expressionlessly. No, you should envy my good birth. After all, this is how I lived before I married Chu Yian. Chen Nanyua's eyes turned red instantly. She was an illegitimate daughter of the Chen family. When she was brought back to the Chen family, the Chen family had already gone bankrupt. She didn't enjoy any of the glory and wealth at all, so what she cared most about was her own background. But my brother told me that girls must be independent and have their own careers. I've always remembered my brother's words and never dared to slack off for a moment. Chen Nanyue finally couldn't help it and showed her weak and scheming demeanor. She wanted to provoke me, but I just lifted my eyelids and glanced at her faintly, then nodded. That's good, then you should work harder. Seeing that I was indifferent, Chen Nanyue was furious. When she got up, she deliberately stepped on Xiaoguai's tail. It was so scared that it jumped up suddenly and knocked over the gift box that I had just opened. A clear sound rang out. I lowered my eyes. I saw the ruby jade pendant that had broken into 2 pieces on the floor. When she saw the broken jade, Chen Nanyue immediately became nervous. I didn't mean to. Halfway through her words, when she caught sight of the figure entering the living room, Chen Nanyue suddenly fell onto the sofa. Ouch. This scene, a scene by Chu Yian who had just entered the door, seemed as if I had deliberately pushed her down. He immediately ran over to help her up and sternly questioned me. What did you do? Before the words were even out, he saw the broken jade on the floor and suddenly changed his expression. How did this happen? Seeing that he was in a bad mood, Chen Nanyue began to pretend to be aggrieved and, it wasn't me. Xiaoguai just jumped up and broke it. Sister Qingyu misunderstood me just now. Her eyes were wet, she seemed aggrieved, but in fact, there was all sorts of calculation in them. Why don't I compensate Sister Qingyu with a piece of jade? My brother left me some money, and I should be able to afford it. But Chen Nanyue didn't know that this ruby jade pendant wasn't bought. It was carved by Chu Yian himself. In the first year of our marriage, Chu Yian had a car accident by accident. He stayed in the ICU for a whole week. After all medical means were used, the expert said that he could only wake up relying on his own will. I, who had never believed in fate, went alone to the temple to ask for a safety amulet for him. The 700 steps in the snowy weather almost made me lose feeling in my hands and feet. Fortunately, Chu Yian woke up the night he put on the safety amulet. But I fell seriously ill from then on. I developed a root cause of being afraid of the cold. Chu Yian felt extremely sorry. Later, he heard that carving a ruby jade pendant by hand could ensure safety, so he found a piece of jade and began to carve it carefully. But in my previous life, after Chen Nanyue was scared into a coma by a flasher at school, to soothe her, Chu Yian gave her that jade pendant full of vows. Later, he always stood behind Chen Nanyue and protected her. I, who had lost his love and protection, eventually ended up alone and was buried in the wilderness. Unexpectedly, after being reborn, Chu Yian actually gave me the ruby jade pendant in advance out of guilt. Unfortunately, it broke before I could even touch it. It was as if it was destined by heaven. Chu Yian and I could only stand at both ends of the balance. We couldn't be together. 5. Amid Chen Nanyue's continuous explanations, Chu Yian silently picked up the broken jade. After looking at it in the palm of his hand for a while, he instructed Chen Nanyue to go back to her room first. I knew that he didn't intend to pursue the matter. Forget it, if it's broken, it's broken. I'll carve another one for you. I'll use a piece of jade with a better texture than this one. Okay. His overly indifferent tone made me show an incredulous expression. Chu Yian, this was carved by you for me. It was Chen Nanyue who broke it. How can you say something like if it's broken? It's broken. He frowned slightly and said helplessly, Yu, she just lost her family member and lacks a sense of security. Can't you be more understanding? Then who will understand me? My chest heaved violently. My breathing became uncontrollably rapid. Chu Yian, you said that you carved the jade pendant for me to ensure my safety. I've been waiting for 2 years. How much longer do you want me to wait? Chen Nanyue was brought back by you. You believe everything she says. And you feel sorry for her even if she gets a little hurt. But she's just your brother's sister. I'm your wife. Why do you always wrong me and forgive her? What did I do wrong that deserves you treating me like this? Chu Yian, the jade is broken. It can't protect me anymore. Can I still believe in you and rely on you? After the words fell, my eyes were already filled with tears. An expression of endless regret flashed across Chu Yian's face. He hugged me tightly and coaxed me in a low voice. Of course you can believe in me. I'll always protect you, Yu. You know how much I love you. In Chu Yian's arms, I gradually opened my eyes. my breathing calmed down, and my tears had dried up. I met Chen Nanyue's vicious and jealous gaze in the distance. I curled my lips slightly. Chu Yian used to love me, but after Chen Nanyue appeared, that love gradually changed. In the past, I always couldn't figure out why Chu Yian would change his heart. Now I don't want to pursue it anymore. A man who has changed his heart, even if it's just a little bit, will be like a rotten apple inside. In the end, he will be extremely ugly. I will abandon Chu Yian when he loves me the most and feels the most guilty towards me. Everything that Chen Nanyue has tried so hard to get will be destroyed by me. Neither the scumbag nor the mistress deserves to be forgiven. 6. Out of guilt. Chu Yian has been treating me very well recently. He has shown meticulous care and protection, as if we were back in the period of our passionate love, but this kind of intimacy will automatically give way when Chen Nanyue appears. At lunch, Chen Nanyue held a few grains of rice and hesitated to speak. I pretended not to see it, but Chu Yian couldn't help but feel sorry for her. What's wrong? Chen Nanyue was like a little rabbit. After taking a look at me, she retracted her neck and shook her head vigorously. It's nothing, as if I had bullied her. Chu Yian looked unhappy. Just say it if you have something to say, you don't have to worry about it. Only then did Chen Nanyue put down her chopsticks and look at Chu Yian expectantly. Brother Yan, I'm going to participate in a competition next month, so I brought the easel back and will practice painting hard every day, but the room on the first floor is too cold. My hands are so frozen that I can't hold the paintbrush properly. My hand that was picking up food froze. It turned out that no matter what I did, important things would still happen. The room where Chen Nanyue was on the first floor faced north. It was indeed not as warm as the second floor in autumn and winter, but there were only 3 rooms on the second floor: the master bedroom, the study, and the lounge exclusive to me. I'm afraid of the cold. Chu Yian specially left that room for me. Inside, there was a customized sofa for me, a large screen, Xiaoguai's cat climbing frame, a toy box, and a jewelry display cabinet covering the whole wall. If Chen Nanyue lived on the second floor, I would have to make room. I didn't respond. Chu Yian hesitated for a long time. I'll ask the housekeeper to add a heater for you. I've tried both the heater and the air conditioner. They will make the room too dry, and the paint will dry up. Seeing that Chu Yian was still hesitating, Chen Nanyue lowered her head again. Brother Yan, I'd better move back to the dormitory. The art studio at school is big and has a constant temperature system. I don't want to trouble you and Sister Qingyu. These words completely reminded Chu Yian of his promise to his deceased brother. He put down his chopsticks, sat up straight, and looked at me. Yu, give up the lounge. After this winter passes, I'll have someone lay floor heating in Nanyue's room and then let her move back. I was a bit dazed, but Chu Yian, I'm also afraid of the cold. Chu Yian frowned and looked somewhat impatient. It's just for one winter, you can endure it. When you're cold, you can go to the greenhouse on the 3rd floor or bask in the sun on the balcony of the bedroom. Chen Rui said that Nanyue was bullied at school, and I can't let her go back to school, although I had already guessed that he would do this. But when it actually happened, I still felt disgusted and uncomfortable. Chu Yian already had Chen Nanyue in his heart and eyes. He didn't care at all that I would also be cold and get sick. I took a deep breath and tried my best to soften my voice. Okay, then move. 7. Chen Nanyue doesn't like small animals. In my previous life, not long after she moved into the 2nd floor, she deliberately opened the window and let Xiaoguai go. She pretended not to know about it all day long. It wasn't until I got home at night and couldn't find Xiaoguai that I checked the surveillance and found that it had entered Chen Nanyue's room and never came out again. Only after I questioned her repeatedly did Chen Nanyue cry and say sorry. I just accidentally didn't close the window. I didn't expect it to get lost. I didn't have time to pay attention to Chen Nanyue and immediately went out to look for the cat. Chu Yian accompanied me to look for it all night. It wasn't until early the next morning that we found its cold body on the road next to the villa area. After returning to the villa, I beat and scolded Chen Nanyue like crazy. She hid behind Chu Yian, crying pitifully. Chu Yian started to protect her. Later, he pushed me away impatiently. Enough, the cat is already dead. It's no use beating and scolding her anymore. I looked at Chu Yian in disbelief. I couldn't understand how he could say such cold words when he had raised Xiaoguai with me for 2 years, but he didn't blame Chen Nanyue at all. Only now did I realize that since he didn't even care about me, how could he care about a cat? I didn't dare to take the risk, so that afternoon, I sent Xiaoguai to Qingfan's house. Qingfan is my parents' adopted son. Now he is the person in charge of the Qing Corporation. When I showed up carrying 2 big bags of pet supplies, he looked worried. Did you two have a fight? Even if you had a fight, it shouldn't be you who runs away from home, right? I sighed. We didn't have a fight, but I'm going to get a divorce. 8. Did Chu Yian hit you? Chung Fan suddenly raised his voice, scaring Xiaoguai, which had just poked its head out, back into the carrier. No, brother. While soothing Xiaoguai, I briefly told him the key points about Chen Nanyue. I was definitely going to get a divorce. It's just that there are many interests involved between the Qing and Chu companies, and getting a divorce is not an easy thing. Since I was reborn, I have been preparing the procedures and documents for the divorce, trying my best to minimize the losses to the Qing Corporation. I came to see Chung Fan today to ask him to be prepared in advance. After listening to me, Chung Fan's face turned cold. You don't have to wrong yourself for the company. I'll back you up. Get a divorce. And do it as soon as possible. Looking at Chung Fan's cold and stern side profile, I felt a complex mix of emotions in my heart. Suddenly, I hugged his arm. Thank you, brother. Chung Fan stiffened for a moment, and then he smiled and patted my head. There's no need to thank me. Leaning against Chung Fan's shoulder, I wiped away my tears when he couldn't see. In my previous life, after I was kidnapped, Chu Yian refused to save me. Nanyue only has me. You still have Chung Fan. And he will save you. But Chung Fan had a car accident on the way to save me. I watched helplessly as his car fell off a cliff, and his life or death was unknown. At that moment, my remaining will to live was shattered. Even when the dagger pierced my chest, I didn't feel any pain. Since God has given me a chance to start over, I will never let the old things happen again. I not only want to save myself, I also want to save Chung Fan. 9. A month later, Chen Nanyue's painting won an award. She gave the painting to Chu Yian. She also asked him to hang it in the study so that he could see her achievement every day. Chu Yian looked at her with doting eyes and readily agreed. A week later, when Chen Nanyue came back with the painting, I was just about to go out. When we passed each other on the stairs, she suddenly spoke. You clearly see that Brother Yan doesn't like you anymore. Why don't you leave him? Chen Nanyue in front of me had a vicious look in her eyes. Where was the innocent and lively appearance of a girl? I didn't show much emotion and looked straight into her eyes. Since you like Chu Yian, why don't you dare to confess your love? Are you afraid that others will scold you for being a mistress? The one who is not loved is the mistress. Chen Nanyue rolled her eyes recklessly and provocatively glanced at my belly. You can't have children anymore. Brother Yan won't be with you for the rest of his life. You'd better leave voluntarily and don't be so oblivious and annoying. My eyes darkened. I did leave a root cause of illness when I went to ask for a safety amulet for Chu Yian that winter. The doctor said that my body had been affected by the cold and needed to be well nourished, otherwise it would be difficult to conceive. Over the years, I have never stopped taking medicine for conditioning, but I still haven't gotten pregnant. Chu Yian has never complained to me. I didn't know that he minded it so much, and he even told my privacy to Chen Nanyue as a joke. I took a deep breath, but I couldn't hold back my anger anymore. I simply raised my foot and kicked Chen Nanyue's painting down the stairs. The wooden frame of the painting fell to the floor with a bang. The canvas was hooked on the railing and tore a long crack. Chen Nanyue's eyes turned red instantly, and she raised her hand to fight with me, but she was half a head shorter than me. And she didn't have the habit of keeping fit like me. I quickly distanced myself from her and pushed her aside. Hiss! Chen Nanyue hit the wall. When she got up, her entire right arm hung down in an unnatural posture. My arm is broken. It hurts so much. My arm is broken. I watched coldly as Chen Nanyue held her arm and screamed and cried in pain. I didn't feel any pity in my heart. I cursed, "You deserve it," and then left without looking back. 10. On this day, Chu Yian called me 18 times and sent dozens of WeChat messages. I ignored all of them. It wasn't until I got home at night that I found that Chu Yian had sent away the housekeeper and the servants. In the huge living room, I stood alone on the opposite side of Chu Yian and Chen Nanyue. His eyes were filled with anger, and his voice was low. You apologize to Nanyue. I sneered and asked him, what should I apologize for? Chu Yian frowned and stepped forward, pointing at Chen Nanyue on the sofa, whose eyes were already red from crying, and he was extremely angry. You destroyed her painting and pushed her down, hurting her arm. Don't you think you should apologize? I was neither humble nor overbearing. You believe everything she says. Have you watched the surveillance video? When the situation was tense, Chen Nanyue suddenly spoke. The surveillance video is broken. She looked at me triumphantly, as if she was certain that I would apologize to her under Chu Yan's coercion. But she was wrong. I already knew that the surveillance video had been secretly damaged by Chu Yian, so I was even more fearless. Facing Chen Nanyue's confident gaze, I slowly opened my mouth. Chen Nanyue, after you found out that the surveillance video was broken, you pretended to be aggrieved and thought that Chu Yian would believe whatever you said, right? But let me guess, you didn't tell him why we had the argument, did you? Chen Nanyue trembled, just as she was about to defend herself. She heard Chu Yan's impatient voice. You don't need to scare her, apologize to her. I looked at Chu Yian with a cold expression and squinted my eyes slightly. Chu Yian, why don't you ask the cause and effect? Why do you believe everything she says? She provoked me first. You should ask her properly. Chu Yian raised his voice, his eyes full of disbelief. Qingyu, do you mean to say that she deliberately provoked you, so she deserved to get hurt? Open your eyes and look. That was the painting she stayed up all night to paint for a whole month. She wouldn't throw it away. She's a painter. How could she risk her future and dislocate her entire arm? You made her get hurt. Is it so difficult for you to apologize voluntarily? I took a deep breath and stared at Chu Yian, enunciating each word clearly. Then, is it my fault that I froze for several hours in the snowy weather to save you and almost lost my ability to have children? 11. Chu Yan's face turned pale. What did you say? I exhaled and pointed at Chen Nanyue on the sofa with a wronged expression. Chu Yian, she said that you don't love me anymore. She said that I can't have children, and it's shameless for me to stay by your side, but this is my privacy. If you didn't tell her yourself, how could she know? A look of regret and uneasiness flashed in Chu Yan's eyes. He didn't dare to look me in the eye. He just hung his head and lowered his voice. Yu, it's my fault. I'm sorry. After a long silence, Chu Yian raised his head again. But one thing is one thing. I apologize to you, and you should also apologize to Nanyue. After all, you hurt her more deeply and almost ruined her future. What Chu Yian wanted to say was, Chen Nanyue just told the truth. But I almost made her unable to hold a paintbrush again. How ridiculous. He was my husband. But he didn't care about my situation at all and didn't care that the gossip would hurt me. Chen Nanyue had already filled his heart completely, making him betray me and hurt me as a matter of course. Fortunately, I don't love Chu Yian anymore. I don't feel any pain at all, just nausea. Looking at his righteous accusation, I didn't hesitate to take out the documents and throw them on the table. Stop explaining. Chu Yian, you might as well just say straightforwardly that you don't love me anymore. Since you don't love me, there's no need for us to be tied together. We're getting a divorce. Looking at the cold words, divorce agreement on the cover of the document, Chu Yan's face changed. Qingyu, if you have any doubts, I can explain, but I didn't cheat. I won't agree to the divorce. I tilted my head slightly and looked at Chu Yian, who was suppressing his anger and pretending to be calm. Suddenly, I laughed, then asked Chen Nanyue to move out and swear that you will never see her again in this life. Can you do it? What on earth are you making a fuss about? You know that Chen Rui is my best brother. How can I let down his entrustment? Is it just because of Chen Rui? Chu Yian seemed to deflate suddenly. His eyes dodged. He wanted to explain but didn't know how to start. This scene made me feel extremely ironic. Stop deceiving yourself, Chu Yian. It's already unclear why you let a girl who has no blood relationship with you and no proper status live in your house. This is a modern society. You can't think of controlling two women at the same time. I don't want to be humiliated with you anymore. You have no choice. I must get a divorce. 12. That night, I left the divorce agreement and left. In the following week, Chu Yian didn't send me any messages. He also didn't sign the agreement. Instead, Chen Nanyue sent me photos every day. At first, it was a side profile of Chu Yian in a meeting. Then it was a dinner just for her and Chu Yian. She was elated and overjoyed. Without you at home, Brother Yan can still live well. Don't come back again. I wasn't angry and replied to her, Mistress, please wake up. Chu Yian and I are not divorced yet. I'm still Mrs. Chu, and you're still the mistress who can't see the light. Chen Nanyue didn't reply to me. That night, she sent me another photo. It was a photo of Chu Yan's chest covered with hickey marks on the bed in the master bedroom. You won't be Mrs. Chu soon. I didn't reply. I sent this photo together with the video I had saved before to Chu Yian. That video was taken on the night I went on vacation in Haicheng. Chu Yian was drunk and pressed Chen Nanyue against the sofa and kissed her deeply. He thought that by deleting the video and destroying the monitoring device after he sobered up, he could completely destroy the evidence and hide this matter, but he didn't know that after I was reborn, I made a real-time backup of the home surveillance video. I know everything clearly about what Chu Yian and Chen Nanyue did at home. 13. After receiving Qingyu's email, Chu Yian belatedly realized that things had gotten out of his control. He had been married to Qingyu for 3 years, the love they had at the beginning was real, but every time he saw Qingyu holding Xiaoguai and calling it baby, Chu Yan's heart would always ache. He thought that Qingyu was deliberately blaming him in this way. He even felt that he was a sinner. This was when Chen Nanyue appeared. There were clearly many ways, but he stubbornly chose to bring her home. He deceived himself that he was just taking care of Chen Nanyue as an older brother, replacing his friend. He knew about Chen Nanyue's little tricks, lying, framing, pretending to be weak, but when he thought of his friend's final entrustment, he felt more sorry for Chen Nanyue and was willing to protect her more. Chu Yian could see the pure admiration in Chen Nanyue's eyes for him. He thought he was firm enough, but he still couldn't help falling in love. He was scared and turned off the home video, trying to soothe his restless heart because of his infidelity in this way. But after seeing Qingyu's email, he realized his stupidity. Qingyu had already discovered it, but she endured it and didn't want to have a falling out with him. If it weren't for Chen Nanyue's deliberate provocation, maybe Qingyu wouldn't have erupted at all. This marriage could still be maintained. It was all Chen Nanyue's fault. Chu Yian regretted it and thought that if he had been more careful, if he had restricted Chen Nanyue more, it would have been better. But why? Qingyu, who climbed the mountain in the snowy weather to ask for a safety amulet for him, just because of this little problem, she suddenly didn't love him anymore. It must be that Qingyu had also changed her heart, so the divorce wasn't his fault alone. 14. Chu Yian asked me to meet him in a coffee shop not far from the Qing Corporation building. When he saw me, he was a little nervous and quickly avoided my gaze. I'm sorry, I didn't say anything and waited for him to continue. After a long time, he raised his head and looked at me nervously. I will ask Nanyue to move out of the house. She is Chenrui's only relative. I will give her a sum of money to ensure that she has no worries for the rest of her life. I promise that I will never contact her again. If I do this, can you forgive me? I suddenly understood that it was not surprising at all that Chu Yian would like Chen Nanyue. They both had the same strange way of thinking, and they were incredibly stupid. I sighed and my gaze fell on the wedding ring on his left ring finger. Chu Yian, do you still remember your wedding vows? Chu Yian was stunned for a moment and tugged at his tie irritably. Chu Yian and I had a free love relationship. At the wedding, he made a promise to stay together for a lifetime and never betray. Now he had broken it with his own hands. Chu Yian, you can't tolerate any flaws. You wouldn't buy a rotten apple. If I had betrayed you first, you would have abandoned me long ago. Chu Yan's breath caught. Sign it as soon as possible. It's good for both you and me. Otherwise, if Chen Nanyue makes a fuss, I can't say what I will do. You're a big CEO, you can disappear with a flick of your wrist. Chen Nanyue hasn't graduated yet, and it's hard to say if she can still get her graduation certificate. I was about to leave after I finished speaking, but Chu Yian grabbed my wrist. He retracted his gaze from outside the window, and his voice was low and cold. Are you getting a divorce because of Chen Nanyue or because of him? Who? I turned around instinctively and happened to see Qing Fan pushing open the door of the coffee shop and walking towards me anxiously. It was simply ironic. I struggled to break free from his grasp. I slapped Chu Yian with all my strength. Chu Yian, don't think that everyone is as disgusting as you. Then I turned around and happened to be protected in Qing Fan's arms, who had come late. He gave Chu Yian a deep look. He protected me and quickly left under his hateful gaze. 15. 2 days later, I received the divorce agreement signed by Chu Yian. That afternoon, I led a professional moving team back to the villa where I had lived for 3 years and moved out all the things that belonged to me, from the expensive high-end customized dresses and jewelry, to the plastic refrigerator magnets bought at a roadside stall. I would rather take them back and throw them away than leave them for Chu Yian and Chen Nanyue. Later, the housekeeper told me that when Chen Nanyue went back in the evening and saw the living room that looked as if it had been robbed, as well as the empty jewelry cabinet and wardrobe, she let out an earth-shattering scream. She felt wronged. She sat on the sofa crying, waiting for Chu Yian to come back. However, I don't know if Chu Yian did it on purpose, but he actually went on a business trip temporarily and didn't come home for a whole week, not long after the divorce. I moved into a new home in Nanjing with Xiaoguai. When I was lying in the rocking chair with Xiaoguai in my arms, basking in the sun, Qing Fan came out of the kitchen wearing an apron. He served me a bowl of soup that had been slowly simmered over a low fire for 3 hours. Just one sip made me feel that it was incredibly delicious. Looking at Qing Fan's back as he helped me organize the bookshelf in the distance, I suddenly remembered the words Chu Yian had said in the coffee shop. I couldn't help but fall into deep thought. When my parents found Qing Fan back then, He was still a baby in swaddling clothes. Since they couldn't find his relatives after several months of reporting to the police and they couldn't bear to send him to an orphanage to suffer, they adopted him and have treated him like their own ever since. There was the character Fan embroidered on his saliva towel, so my parents named him Qing Fan. In Qing Fan's first year of senior high school, the Fan family in Haicheng came to look for him. They said he was the youngest son of the Fan family in Haicheng. That winter, Qing Fan refused to leave for Haicheng. He insisted on spending the spring festival with us at home before leaving. He was gone for 6 years. The day he came back happened to be my engagement banquet with Chu Yian. Looking at my brother whom I hadn't seen for years and who seemed a bit unfamiliar, I really wanted to hold his arm, but I didn't dare to get close. My parents had long planned to retire and travel around the world. Unfortunately, I didn't like running the company, so they had never been able to fulfill their wish. After learning that Qing Fan wouldn't leave, they completely became hands-off managers and handed over the company and me to Qing Fan. In the following years, I gradually regained the closeness I had with Qing Fan when we were children. He was very good to me. He doted on me and indulged me, and he would even risk his life for me. I had never thought that Qing Fan would have feelings for me that were different from those of a brother and sister. After all, he was the most favored youngest son of a century-old prestigious family, and there was no need for him to like me while facing all the gossip. However, those words of Chu Yan's really did make me feel troubled. After thinking for a while, I pretended to be cheerful and said, "Brother, your cooking skills are so good. It would be a pity if you don't find someone to appreciate them." Qing Fan didn't raise his head, and his voice was tired. "Didn't you just appreciate it? But I can't appreciate it every day. You're half a year older than me. It's time for you to find a girlfriend." Before I could finish my sentence, Qing Fan gave me a cold look. I immediately lowered my head, and my voice became softer and softer. Seeing my cowardly appearance, Qing Fan sighed. "You just ended a marriage and now you're urging me to get married, Qing Yu. Are you serious?" I pursed my lips and whispered in defense, "I just hope you can be happy." "I will be happy." From a long distance away, Qing Fan looked straight at me. "You don't need to test me. I have my own plans. I will be happy, but it's not the time yet." After saying that, he averted his gaze and turned back into the kitchen. I blinked a few times and suddenly felt a complex mix of emotions. I silently complained to Xiaoguai, "He's really hard to understand." 16. In the second month after the divorce, I had already adapted to the independent life with just me and the cat. Qing Fan would occasionally come to bring food, but he maintained a frequency that didn't disturb or interfere. It was as if nothing had happened that afternoon. In contrast, Chu Yian didn't have a good time. Since we lived in the same social circle, even if I didn't actively inquire, I could still know something about his news. After he came back from his business trip, he gave Chen Nanyue a sum of money and asked her to move out of the house. Chen Nanyue refused and threw a huge tantrum at him. Surprisingly, Chu Yan's attitude was extremely firm. It was as if the person who had once had only Chen Nanyue in his heart and eyes wasn't himself. Even after moving out of the villa, Chen Nanyue still wasn't reconciled. She waited at the gate of the villa and blocked Chu Yian at his company. She even broke into the meeting room despite being stopped, causing Chu Yian to lose a very valuable big order. When I heard this news, I suddenly felt that Chen Nanyue at this moment was like me in my previous life. Because she didn't believe that Chu Yian would change his heart, she turned herself into an angry bird and crashed headfirst into the whirlpool. She ended up being completely destroyed. It was a Pyrrhic situation. Chu Yian was equally heartless towards Chen Nanyue and didn't even give her a chance to meet him. Driven crazy, Chen Nanyue vented all her resentment on me. Listening to the filthy insults on the phone, I closed my eyes. "But Chen Nanyue, did Chu Yian ever say that he loved you with his own mouth?" The cursing stopped abruptly. 2 seconds later, there was a beeping sound. I had watched the home surveillance. When facing Chen Nanyue, Chu Yian never said anything beyond the boundaries. And he never took the initiative to make a decent promise. He was like a confident manipulator, enjoying manipulating Chen Nanyue's admiration for him. It was the same with Chen Nanyue. It was also the same with me. Otherwise, Chu Yian wouldn't have brought Chen Nanyue home openly, tested me again and again, and pushed my bottom line. Chu Yian was a complete scumbag. 17. Chu Yian has come to find me recently, either through work or through friends, but I refused him every time, until this time. I received an invitation from Chu Yian to the charity dinner of the foundation. The foundation of the Chu Corporation was established in my name by Chu Yian after he recovered from his illness. It was also a project that I had put the most effort into building after getting married, so I couldn't refuse. That night, he walked straight towards me through the crowd. When he got close, I realized that he had been tortured by Chen Nanyue and looked very haggard. Even the customized suit couldn't hide his exhaustion. He said, Yu, I've already asked Nanyue to move out. Can you give me a chance to start over? I didn't understand Chu Yan's way of thinking and took half a step back to create some distance. Chu Yan, I don't like you anymore. We're already divorced. There's no point in saying these things. Chu Yan didn't agree. Just as he was about to say something, there was a commotion outside the door. It turned out to be Chen Nanyue. Since she didn't have an invitation, she got into a fight with the security guard who was blocking her. Chu Yan's face darkened instantly, and he rushed towards her. I don't know how he soothed Chen Nanyue. 10 minutes later, Chu Yan came back alone. He walked towards me again, but was stopped by the staff halfway and was told that it was time for him to go on stage and give a speech. Chu Yan asked me to wait for him, but my eyelids kept twitching, and I felt uneasy in my heart. I left the banquet hall before he finished his speech. Unexpectedly, I met Chen Nanyue in the underground garage. Her hair was disheveled. There were several footprints on the lace hem of her dress, which had been stepped on by the security guards just now. She looked like a pitiful rag doll, but it made me feel a sense of fear. Qingyu, I want you to die. As long as you die, Brother Yan will only be able to love me. She took out a knife from behind her back and pounced towards me, screaming. I turned and ran. I was shouting for help as I ran, but at a corner, I stepped on the hem of my dress, sprained my ankle, lost my balance, and fell down the stairs. The next second, Chen Nanyue caught up. I curled up into a ball, screaming. There was no expected pain. A few drops of blood dripped onto the ground beside my ear. I turned around and saw Chu Yian standing above me, blocking me. The dagger pierced through his back and came out from his chest. 18. In the emergency room. Chu Yian had a very long dream. It was as if he had been injected with the memories of himself in another parallel universe. In that world, Chu Yian completely violated his original oath. He fell in love with Chen Nanyue and betrayed Qingyu. He knew about the bad qualities in Chen Nanyue, but he indulged her blindly, making Qingyu sad again and again. When Qingyu was kidnapped, he didn't hesitate to choose to save Chen Nanyue. The reason was simple. Chen Nanyue only had him, Qingyu. On the other hand, had Qing Fan to save her, but he didn't expect that Qing Fan would have a car accident on the way to save Qingyu and fall off a cliff. The kidnappers were afraid of causing a big fuss and getting into trouble, so they killed the hostage in advance. They left Qingyu alone in the wilderness. After losing Qingyu, Chu Yian suddenly felt at a loss. He didn't seem to love Chen Nanyue that much anymore. Especially after discovering that the kidnapping case was deliberately designed by Chen Nanyue and that Chen Nanyue had tampered with Qing Fan's car. Chu Yian thought Chen Nanyue was disgusting. He was like having a split personality and became the Chu Yian who only loved Qingyu again. He collected evidence and sent Chen Nanyue to prison. The day Chen Nanyue was taken away, she screamed and accused. It was you who made me like this. It was you who betrayed Qingyu. It's all your fault. Chu Yian was suddenly awakened as if he had been slapped. He belatedly realized that he was the one who started all this. Qingyu died because of his betrayal. Chu Yian couldn't accept the reality. After staying awake for 2 nights, Chu Yian swallowed a whole bottle of sleeping pills. Beep, his heart stopped beating. Beep, 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 his heart started beating again. 19. Chen Nanyue was arrested on the day of the incident. Chu Yian was injured in a vital part and didn't wake up until a week later. I went to visit him in the hospital the day after Chu Yian woke up. Qing Fan went with me. When Chu Yian saw him, he frowned slightly, but his tone was calm and gentle. Can you let me talk to Qingyu alone? Qing Fan saw me nod and then turned and went out. It was just me and Chu Yian in the ward. He looked at me with a gaze that was both strange and familiar. After a long time, he managed to squeeze out an ugly smile. I'm sorry, Qingyu, I didn't mean not to choose you on purpose. I was suddenly stunned. Then I heard him say, it must have been very painful when the dagger went through your heart, right? My face turned pale instantly, and I took 2 steps back towards the door. You're back too. Chu Yian didn't say anything, just looked at me and nodded. I didn't ask why Chu Yian from the previous life died, and I didn't care, in both the previous life and this life. He deserved his punishment. Perhaps sensing my rejection, Chu Yian weakly covered his eyes. I've always owed you a sincere apology, and also the one to Qing Fan. I was confused. What do you mean by that? Chu Yian sighed and told me about Chen Nanyue's design of the kidnapping case and her tampering with Qing Fan's car. Perhaps he hadn't fully recovered yet. By the end, he was breathing rapidly and started coughing. I stood in the distance, my body trembling uncontrollably. Seeing that I still refused to get close, he pulled out the oxygen tube, rolled out of bed, and then stumbled over to me and knelt down to beg, "I know you won't forgive me, but Yu, I still want to ask, if I hadn't brought Chen Nanyue home, would we not have ended up like this?" He was still evading responsibility and pushing all the consequences onto Chen Nanyue. I felt as if there was a heavy weight on my chest, making it hard to breathe, but I forced myself to stay calm. I pushed his hand away, "There are no ifs." Then I ignored Chu Yian, who was lying on the ground unable to get up, and immediately opened the door and left. I found Qing Fan at the end of the corridor. He had just finished a phone call and was walking towards me. "Brother." I quickened my pace and threw myself into his arms. Finally, I couldn't hold it in anymore and burst into tears for the first time since I was reborn. 20. That was the last time I saw Chu Yian. I heard that he hadn't been in good health after being discharged from the hospital. He was also in low spirits and developed the habit of drinking heavily. In just half a year, he was admitted to the hospital 3 times. When the waiter reminded me that the restaurant was about to close, I received a message on my phone. All these things had nothing to do with me anymore. Qing Fan picked up a little calico cat downstairs from the company. He was afraid that he couldn't take good care of the kitten. So he brought it over and asked me to raise it with him. He would come to take a look from time to time, bringing toys and cat food. He would also bring my favorite snacks and cook special meals for me. He always took care of me just right. He didn't make me feel the slightest bit of discomfort or rejection. He didn't force me to give an answer, and he also didn't take that step for a long time. Some things need to be left to time. We don't need to be in a hurry. Story 2, in a previous life. My sister was adopted by a wealthy family, while I was taken in by a janitor. Within the affluent family, my sister faced severe internal strife, indifferent parents, and bullying from her brother, which eventually led her to leave with nothing. In contrast, my adoptive family, although not wealthy, was filled with love and harmony. Ironically, the wealthy young master fell in love with me, a poor girl, turning my life into something straight out of a TV drama, driven by resentment. My sister murdered me, and we both found ourselves back to the day we were adopted. This time, she rushed into the janitor's arms. "Sister, this time, I'm the lead in the drama." But she didn't realize that being the protagonist isn't about where you come from. My sister and I were reborn and returned to the day we were at the orphanage waiting to be adopted. In the director's office stood 2 families, the Gu family and the Zhou family. The Gu family was impeccably dressed. The man wore a suit, the woman was adorned with jewels, and their only son Gu Zhiyue was in a high school uniform but sported a pair of globally limited edition sneakers. This was the illustrious Gu family, with the father being a business magnate contributing significantly to the city's taxes and the mother a socialite frequently seen at jewelry auctions and charity dinners. Their son, Gu Zhiyue, was known as the city's prince. In contrast, the Zhou family looked modest and worn. Both parents had marks of physical labor on their hands, and despite wearing their best clothes, there were still traces of unwashed stains. Previously, my sister Sherman had unhesitatingly chosen the Gu family, but now, almost as if afraid of being left behind, she threw herself into the janitor's arms. "Mom, take me with you. I want to be your daughter. From now on, I'll be called Zhou Sherman." Amidst her excited cries, I approached the Gu family. Thus, our fates were decided, and we were taken away by our new families. As we left the orphanage, I heard the director muttering to himself in confusion, "It's strange, Sherman has always been competitive, never sparing a glance at anyone dressed modestly before. Why didn't she choose the real wealthy family this time?" The director didn't understand, but I did. He saw me earning a scholarship, excelling as the top student, attending school during the day and helping my mom clean offices at night, despite the hardships. I never complained. "Zhou Shichu is quite an interesting girl," he remarked. It was like something out of a drama series, where the rebellious rich young master falls for the resilient and poor innocent girl. Later, when Gu's parents passed away and the time came to divide the inheritance, Gu Zhiyue, accompanied by a team of lawyers, left Sherman with nothing, forcing her out of the family without a penny to her name. A few months later, Gu Zhiyue married me. Even at the wedding, he boldly declared, "Zhou Shichu, from now on, what's mine is yours." Unfortunately, I never got to enjoy Gu Zhiyue's wealth, because a few days later, driven to despair and madness, Sherman killed me in a car crash. In this new life, my sister didn't hesitate to choose the Zhou family. Though they weren't extremely wealthy, the absence of scheming allowed her to enjoy the full and undivided love of her parents and grow up in a happy home. She would also be cherished and protected by a wealthy young master. Eventually leading to a fairy tale-like grand wedding. With a smile, she told me, "Sister, this time, it's my turn to be the protagonist of a drama series. You should experience everything I went through." Sherman's expectations were not wrong, and in fact, Gu Zhiyue's bullying started even earlier than in the previous life. In school, my head was dunked into a sink surrounded by the mocking laughter of a group of boys, just as I was about to run out of oxygen. Someone lifted me by the back of my neck. Gu Zhiyue was smiling at me. "You want my family's money? Sure, drink all the water in the toilet bowl. For each sip, I'll give you 100,000, how about that?" His cronies cheered excitedly. I looked at Gu Zhiyue. The person who had gently professed his love in my past life was now unleashing his cruelty on me without restraint, but Gu Zhiyue wasn't looking at me. His gaze went past me, towards the back where Zhou Sherman was bending down to mop the floor. "Isn't that Zhou Sherman? Why is she still cleaning?" One of the cronies informed Gu Zhiyue. "Her mom's the school cleaner. She goes to school during the day and helps her mom in the evenings." A look of shock followed by pity flashed across Gu Zhiyue's eyes. He shouted to Zhou Sherman, "Hey, it's too cold, stop cleaning, no one's going to check anyway." Zhou Sherman straightened up, her long black hair cascading over her shoulders, her delicate face set in a defiant expression. She shook her head. "I can't do that. If someone comes to check and finds the floor dirty, my mom will lose 100 yuan from her salary. I know 100 yuan might mean nothing to a young master like you, but for my family, it's a week's worth of groceries." After saying that, Zhou Sherman bent down and continued to mop the floor. After thinking it over, I draped my coat over her shoulders. "It's late, how will you get home?" "I'll ride my bike." "You're biking in this cold weather?" Gu Zhiyue was astonished, then said decisively, "Wait downstairs, I'll have my driver take you home." Zhou Sherman was escorted away under Gu Zhiyue's protection. As she was leaving, she didn't forget to sneak a mocking smile at me, who was in a sorry state. Soon after, everyone dispersed, and only I was left by the pool, struggling to get up. I used my sleeve to wipe the water dripping from my hair. "Use this." A cool voice came from behind me. I turned around to see our class president, Song Shali. She was a quiet and reserved girl, very studious, and wore long sleeves through all seasons. In the past, she had helped Zhou Sherman when she was being bullied. She handed Zhou Sherman a towel and urged her to expose Gu Zhiyue's bullying. But Zhou Sherman slapped her hand away. "What do you know? He's my brother." Back then, Zhou Sherman was still dreaming that Gu Zhiyue would come to like her, so afterward, Song Shali stopped intervening and continued to keep to herself. Later, close to graduation, Song Shali took her own life. That was when we learned that her family was extremely poor. Her grandmother was bedridden year-round, and her father was a gambler who not only abused her but also planned to sell her to settle his debts. Now, she stood next to me, holding a clean towel. I hesitated, then took it. She didn't say much else and turned to leave. She probably thought there wasn't much to say to someone like me, a privileged daughter of the Gu family. Watching her figure about to disappear, I suddenly spoke up. "Class president." She stopped in her tracks. I scratched my head. "Well, I just transferred here and still don't know my way around. Where's the cafeteria? Can you show me?" "In the cafeteria?" The table was set with 4 dishes and 1 soup, braised spare ribs, steamed pork with eggs, cola chicken wings, stir-fried choy sum, and clam and winter melon soup. It was indeed the best high school in Jiang City, and the cafeteria's food was a point of pride. I scratched my head again. I accidentally ordered too much. It's shameful to waste, and you probably haven't had dinner yet, right? Shall we eat together?" Song Shali was silent for a moment, then finally picked up her chopsticks and began to eat. I noticed her wrists peeking out from her school uniform sleeves, delicate and slender. Actually, it's girls like the class president who truly need help, but because they're not beautiful and don't complain, they just become a forgotten weed in the memories of youth, not even qualifying as the lead in a romantic drama. This time, I'm determined not just to save myself, but to save her too. Resolute, I spoke up. Conic sections are so hard. I can't understand them at all." "Class president, you're good at studying, how about tutoring me?" Song Shali, with a piece of braised rib in her mouth, looked at me with an expression that said, "Are we that close?" I didn't give her a chance to refuse. I cheerfully put my arm around the class president's shoulders. "Then it's settled, I'll pay you for the tutoring." I gave a portion of my living expenses to the class president, claiming it was a prepayment for tutoring fees. She looked at the envelope with 100 red bills inside, too shocked to speak. in both past and present lives. The Gu family always ensured that their adopted daughter never lacked basic necessities and living expenses. However, the amount of money that Gu Zhiyue considered small was enough for Song Xiaoli to afford her grandmother's medicine and hospital fees. She could even rent a small apartment off campus to escape her abusive father. After scheduling a tutoring session with the class leader for the next day, I returned home. The luxurious villa was empty. Father Gu was out at a business entertainment, and Mother Gu was at the beauty salon for maintenance. As for Gu Zhiyue, he was probably dining at the Zhou family's home. In a previous life, the Zhou family's parents warmly invited him to stay for dinner after seeing him drop me off. Just like a scene from a typical idol drama. A simple dinner in the modest household allowed the young master, accustomed to the cold luxury of affluent life, to experience the warm kinship of a poor family, the genuine smiles always present on the faces of Zhou's parents and the warmth of their humble, lively home made Gu Zhiyue yearn for and appreciate the simplicity of life in such a family. At this moment, although he and Zhou Sherman were eating plain food, they were probably very happy. I slowly changed into my Hermes robe. Washed my face with Chanel cleanser, ate a bowl of rock sugar bird's nest prepared by the nanny, and sneered. Unbeknownst to many, the Zhou couple was not as genuine as they appeared. They favored boys over girls and initially wanted to adopt a boy. However, since there were no healthy boys available in the orphanage, they settled for a beautiful girl, hoping she would attract a wealthy suitor in the future. Seeing Gu Zhiyue drop off their daughter, they were thrilled and immediately saw him as a potential match, welcoming him warmly. The so-called familial warmth was nothing but a performance, as that was all they had to impress someone from an affluent background. In a previous life, when I told them I didn't want to marry Gu Zhiyue, my foster mother locked me in a room while my foster father beat me severely with a table leg and a belt. Zhou Sherman might think she's entered heaven in this life, but in reality, there is no true heaven on earth. The Gu family represents a wealthy hell, while the Zhou family is a poor one. Surviving these hells depends on one's own capabilities. In the days that followed, Gu Zhiyue's malice intensified. The lunch prepared by the nanny was sabotaged with a box full of tacks. Dead spiders were squeezed into my facial cleanser and toothpaste. My dresses were burnt with cigarette butts. Each time I was startled and looked up, I met Gu Zhiyue's sinister smile. He mouthed to me, "Gu Shichu, you deserve this." He expected me to cry, but I calmly disposed of the tacks, threw the spiders in the trash, and neatly folded and put away the dresses. This made his smile disappear. He stared at me intently, his voice almost a growl. "Let's see how long you can keep this up." Fortunately, despite enduring Gu Zhiyue's malice, I now had access to all the resources of the Gu family. I no longer had to juggle school during the day and forced labor for my foster mother at night. Instead, with a nanny to take care of me and a driver for transportation, I could focus solely on my studies. In a previous life, I had to save money for a long time to buy extra educational materials, always wary of my foster father stealing my money for his drinking and gambling. Now, my wardrobe was filled with designer clothes and my jewelry box with pieces from Van Cleef Arpels and Cartier, all casually given by Mother Gu. I don't need to pay for it myself. In addition, at the beginning of every month, I receive 50,000 yuan in cash for spending money and a credit card with a limit of 100,000 yuan. If I run out, I just need to tell the butler, and within half an hour, new funds will be deposited into the card. The tough life I used to lead has now fallen entirely on Zhou Shimin. I saw her sleeping through classes because she had to help her foster mother with chores at night and couldn't get enough sleep. Gradually, she stopped doing her homework and began handing in blank papers during exams. In my previous life, I relied on black coffee to keep going, and when I was really tired, I would prick myself with a compass just to stay awake and study. But Zhou Shimin lived a pampered life in her previous life and didn't have the same determination or perseverance, let alone care about her studies. In her view, becoming the fiancé of the Gu family's heir apparent was far more valuable than getting into top universities like Tsinghua or Peking University. So, Zhou Shimin focused all her energy on making Gu Zhiyue like her more. She wouldn't listen during math class, instead quietly writing in a diary meant for Gu Zhiyue's eyes only. She wouldn't show up for dance rehearsals, preferring to sneak out of school with Gu Zhiyue to drive to the countryside and watch the stars. Then, on the eve of the dance performance, she sat outside the rehearsal room crying. I guess Zhou Shimin had studied the crying techniques of drama heroines, looking up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, tears brimming in her eyes but stubbornly refusing to fall. Then, Gu Zhiyue happened to pass by and see her. the moment Gu Zhiyue asked what was wrong. The tears Zhou Shimin had been holding back finally fell. She threw herself into Gu Zhiyue's arms and burst into tears. "Zhiyue, I've lost my chance to perform. All the girls in class are on stage, only I am not allowed to participate." Gu Zhiyue already despised me immensely, and upon hearing this, he became furious. "Why not?" Zhou Shimin bit her lip, trying hard to stop crying, but still sobbed. She said, "My mom is just a cleaner, and my dad is a security guard. I can't even afford the performance costume. I don't deserve to be on stage." Gu Zhiyue's expression grew increasingly grim. He looked at Zhou Shimin, who was struggling to breathe between sobs, and said softly, "It's just a costume, I'll buy it for you." Zhou Shimin shook her head, the very picture of a virtuous and impoverished damsel. "No, it costs 800 yuan, I can't accept such an expensive gift from you." Gu Zhiyue was both angry and distressed. How dare she? He blurted out in anger. Zhou Shimin tearfully shook her head. "After all, she is your sister, the lady of the Gu family. Several buildings in the school are donated by your family, and your father is an honorary member of the school board. Even if the teachers know she's bullying, what can they do?" Zhou Shimin didn't notice that at that moment, a reporter who had come to the school for an interview passed behind her, leaning forward. The reporter, sensing a story like a shark smelling blood, asked keenly, "Bullying? What bullying?" And just like that, the situation blew up. The school's largest meeting room was crowded with people: the principal, vice principal, head of discipline, class teacher, journalists from various newspapers. The parents of both the Gu and Zhou families were all present, with Zhou's parents standing in a corner of the room, protecting Zhou Shimin, who was covered in tear stains, their faces full of grievance and anger. Gu's parents originally didn't want to come when they heard it was my trouble. Only when they heard that even the newly appointed head of the education department was present did they rush over. Jiangqing No. 1 high school is the best high school in the city, a model for the education department. Gu's father and the head of the education department clearly had a prior relationship. As soon as he entered, he approached the department head and started smoothing things over. For such a small matter, even Director Li has been alarmed. It's really just kids having conflicts. But the head of the education department was very principled and didn't fall for it. "Mr. Gu, bullying is never a trivial matter. I know Gu Shichu is your daughter, but to me, every child here is a student. They are all young saplings. I cannot stand by and watch them grow crooked." With these words, Father Gu could only offer a smile and say nothing more. Yes, we aren't clear on what happened either. Please look into it." Returning to Mother Gu's side, the two exchanged a silent glance. "I understood then. If the accusations of bullying were proven true, the Gu family would immediately disown me, their adopted daughter who held little emotional significance to them, and sever all ties with me." Given the attitude of Father and Mother Gu, as for Gu Zhiyue, he stood next to the constantly sobbing Zhou Shimin, softly consoling her and occasionally lifting his dark eyes to give me a cold glance. The principal, seeing everyone had arrived, asked Zhou Shimin to speak. "Miss Zhou, please tell us what happened." Zhou Shimin lifted her tear-stained eyes and repeated in a low voice what she had told Gu Zhiyue. The reporters began to seethe with indignation. One of them took the lead. "After preliminary investigations, we found that Gu Shichu and Zhou Shimin were once friends in the same orphanage, close as sisters. Later, Gu Shichu was adopted by the powerful Gu Corporation, while Zhou Shimin's adoptive parents were merely ordinary school staff." Gu Shichu, just because you entered a wealthy family, does that give you the right to bully your former friend and take away opportunities that rightfully belong to her? Silence fell. All eyes and cameras were on me, their red lights blinking incessantly. Everyone wanted to uncover a sensational story. After all, in a society where social strata are increasingly solidified, if the children of the wealthy continue to snatch educational opportunities from the less privileged, blocking their paths to progress, it would certainly ignite substantial public outrage. Not to mention, the protagonists of this news story, Zhou Shimin and I, made for a dramatically contrasting pair. In the pin-drop silence of the office, I suddenly let out a snort of laughter. Abrupt and loud, the reporters looked at each other in confusion. "Dear journalist, I've read that news workers should cross-verify the information they receive and check the facts. Why, just because you're in a hurry to report a sensational news story, can you skip these steps?" The reporter's face turned red. I stood up, pointing coldly at Zhou Shimin. "Right now, she is the only source of information, and all accusations are solely her side of the story." I looked at Zhou Shimin, her face pale from crying. "I once considered you a sister, but in a past life, you killed me out of jealousy. In this life, you climb up by framing me. If I end up ruining you, it's your own doing. Now that the journalists are asking me, let me tell you what I know. Zhou Shimin is jealous of me. She thinks, despite starting from the same place and even being prettier and smarter than me, why should I lead a better life than hers now? Driven by envy, she fabricated this story to frame me. At this, Gu Zhiyue immediately countered. Actually, what he wanted to say was that Zhou Shimin had willingly chosen the humble Zhou family, therefore, she couldn't possibly be someone who despised poverty and loved wealth. My accusations were completely twisting the truth. But before he could finish, the door to the principal's office was abruptly thrown open. A slim figure stood at the door. With short hair and a nondescript appearance, like an unnoticed weed, our class teacher recognized her. Song Xiaoli, what are you doing here? At this time in my past life, Song Xiaoli had already taken her own life, but in this life, she survived. She walked in and stood beside me. In a low voice, she said, I'm here to testify. From her attire, it was clear that Song Xiaoli wasn't born into a wealthy family. At first glance, she seemed more akin to someone like Zhou Shimin. Song Xiaoli glanced at the person who had asked her the question and shook her head. I'm here to testify for Gu Shichu. She said. I was surprised to see Song Xiaoli there. Honestly, I had prepared extensively for today's confrontation, but Song Xiaoli was not among the witnesses I had prepared. After all, our relationship wasn't particularly close. After giving her some money last time, she checked the current market rates for tutoring fees. Calculating an hourly rate, she returned the excess money to me. She tutored me in math for an hour each day. When the hour ended, she would promptly pack her bags and leave. Much like a robot programmed to follow a set routine, in her previous life, Song Xiaoli had committed suicide by jumping from a building just before her college entrance exams. All her hopes were pinned on getting into a good university to quickly earn money for her grandmother's medical treatment. A month before the exams, her father lost money gambling, drank several bottles of cheap liquor, and came home to give Song Xiaoli the worst beating of her life. Her right hand, the one she wrote with, was broken. No one knew exactly what else happened that day, what other horrors the battered Song Xiaoli endured. When people found her again, the ever-silent girl had already jumped from the rooftop. In this life, although Song Xiaoli and I weren't friends, I still wanted to save her. So, I paid some thugs to beat up Song Xiaoli's father and send him to the hospital, at least until the exams were over. He wouldn't be able to abuse her. To meticulously plan this, I uncharacteristically missed an evening self-study session. When I returned, Song Xiaoli, who was in charge of attendance, caught me red-handed. Why did you skip the evening study session? She asked. I scratched my head, desperate for an excuse. After all, looking perfectly healthy, I couldn't just say, I skipped class to beat up your dad. Just then, Song Xiaoli was called out by a teacher. Xiaoli, you have a phone call. It was the news about her father's accident. 5 minutes later, Song Xiaoli returned, her expression as impassive as ever. She picked up the attendance sheet again and then put it down. I won't record it this time, she said calmly. Don't miss it again. At that moment, I breathed a sigh of relief and hurried back to my seat to study. Now, as Song Xiaoli declared in the same calm tone, I am here to testify for Gu Shichu. I realized she might know everything, with everyone's eyes on her. Song Xiaoli pulled out a stack of forms and placed them on the table. Zhou Shimin's face turned ghostly pale. Entering the dance studio for rehearsal required filling out forms according to school regulations, what times the studio was borrowed and who was using it, all documented. However, this was not strictly enforced, and filling them out was cumbersome, so eventually, most stopped and just notified the dance teacher directly. No one expected that Song Xiaoli, meticulous as ever, filled out the forms every time and kept them all. Now, under the watchful eyes of everyone, it was clear to see, out of over 30 forms, Zhou Shimin's name appeared only on 2. This meant that out of more than 30 rehearsals, she had attended just 2. After everyone had a clear view of the forms, Song Xiaoli slowly began to speak. Zhou Shimin claimed that Gu Shichu mocked her for not being able to afford the performance costume, and that's why she wasn't allowed on stage. But when I told Gu Shichu I couldn't afford the costume and didn't want to participate, he encouraged me to continue rehearsing, picked up my phone and played a video clip for everyone. In the video, it was clear to see that Zhou Shimin was out of sync, forgetting her moves and unable to keep up. She stood out as the weakest performer, noticeably so. Indeed, during the previous rehearsals, she had been off stargazing with Gu Zhiyue instead. Actually, Zhou Sherman wasn't very keen on participating in this performance. It was only after I had excluded her that she twisted the story to gain Gu Zhiyue's sympathy and dislike towards me. She hadn't anticipated the situation blowing up this much, especially with me having both witnesses and solid evidence on my side. Originally, I shouldn't have taken it upon myself to exclude Zhou Sherman, but this dance performance had special bonus points for admissions. And 2 girls in our group who are specialized students were relying on these points for their future education. Had I allowed Zhou Sherman to participate, it would have jeopardized their opportunities, so I had to make that decision. After the interview, the public perception of me and Zhou Sherman completely flipped. Classmates began to say she suffered from a persecution complex and started to distance themselves from her. Don't get too close to Zhou Sherman, or she might accuse you of bullying her because she's poor. Realistically, her family isn't that poor, right? Both her parents have decent jobs, and there are many students at our school who are poorer and rely on scholarships, yet they don't go around claiming they are bullied. Some people just like to blame their fate instead of putting in the effort. Surprisingly, Zhou Sherman remained quiet throughout. She passed the final self-study period in silence, without stirring any trouble, all the way through the college entrance exams. Song Xiaoli warned me, "Be careful. She might be planning her retaliation." I smiled. No worries, if she can keep her cool, so can I. I could sense that Zhou Sherman was plotting something behind the scenes. At home, it was visibly obvious that Gu Zhiyue's attitude towards me was deteriorating. Before, he would at least avoid bullying me in front of Gu's parents. Now, during a family dinner, he slammed a bowl full of chicken soup on the table, splashing the hot liquid on my face. The maid nearby gasped, quickly bringing me an ice pack and burn ointment. Throughout this, Gu's mother kept her head down, sipping her soup as if she saw nothing. Gu's father glanced up briefly and told Gu Zhiyue, "Be more careful. Don't let others think our child is ill-mannered." Gu's father and mother didn't care about me. To them, I was just an adopted daughter brought home based on a fortune teller's advice, like a lucky tree placed there for good fortune. In my previous life, Zhou Sherman had tried to foster a relationship with Gu's parents, but that approach proved utterly wrong. When Gu's parents were busy, they would leave their own son with a nanny. How could they possibly develop a bond with an adopted daughter? In a wealthy family, talking about feelings is useless. It's only worth discussing interests. So, I put down the ice pack. I turned to my parents calmly and said, "Mom, Dad, there's something I need to tell you. I scored 718 on my college entrance exam, making me the top science student." As soon as I finished speaking, both my father and mother looked up sharply. Even my brother Gu Zhiyue widened his eyes in surprise. I casually picked up some stir-fried kale with my chopsticks and ate leisurely. Then, facing the astonished looks from the 3 of them at the dining table, I spoke lightly. "Mom and Dad always said that studying is our own business, so I didn't think to report my score, but my teacher just called me, saying that some reporters want to interview you about your parenting experiences. I wanted to ask if you'd be available." In my previous life, even though I worked part-time while studying, I still achieved good grades. In this life, having relearned the same knowledge without any obstacles, my performance soared to new heights. My parents exchanged looks, clearly taken aback. Before this, they had never paid much attention to the college entrance exam. Gu Zhiyue had applied to schools in Australia early on and went abroad right after high school, so he didn't need to take the exam. As for me, their foster daughter, they left things to fate and didn't bother much. No one expected me to do so well. "I plan to apply to the Guanghua School of Management at Peking University," I said, looking at my father. "I'll start interning at the investment department of Dad's company in my freshman year." My father was silent for a couple of seconds before he responded with a smile. "If you have that ambition, it's certainly a good thing." "Sure, Chu, congratulations." "Lee, could you please bring some red wine from the trunk of my car?" "Sure, Chu must be 18 by now, right? Let's celebrate properly today." Ignoring the almost dripping dark gaze of Gu Zhiyue, I raised my glass to clink with my parents, gratefully acknowledging their support. I had made the right bet. My parents didn't care about an ordinary foster daughter, but what if the foster daughter was the top scorer in the college entrance exam? That was a glory for the family, a testament to successful parenting, a beacon of hope for the future. My parents were delighted, opening several bottles of cherished red wine. And we fixed the time for the interview with the reporter before they went off to rest slightly tipsy. Only Gu Zhiyue and I were left at the dining table. The chandelier cast a foreboding shadow on his face. He inherited his mother's good looks, with a handsome nose and deep eyes. truly a stunning figure of a wealthy young master, yet at that moment, he looked at me with those beautiful eyes, cold and dark. Gu Chu, you don't think that just by doing this, you can truly become part of my family? Do you? I stood up, politely resetting the chair to its original place, then leaned close to Gu Zhiyue's ear and whispered, young master, you might want to get your facts straight. It's your parents who now actively want me to be part of the family. On the day I went back to school to collect my transcript, I encountered Zhou Shimeng. She stood in the shadows looking at me, her expression a mix of jealousy, confusion, and anger. I knew she had seen the video of my interview with my parents. In the video, my mother had her arm around my shoulders, and my father was eloquently speaking to the host. The host complimented him for being both a successful businessman and a successful educator. At the end, the three of us took a family photo that looked like those perfect families in commercials. This was something Zhou Shimeng never had in her previous life. She stared at me and said in a low, resentful voice, "What tricks did you use?" I shrugged, believe it or not. Just studying hard and aiming high every day. I walked away, convinced that Zhou Shimeng didn't believe me, yet this was the only solution. Behind me, I heard her softly say, even if you gain the love of Gu's parents, it's useless. Gu Zhiyue loves me. Typical of a drama series heroine, isn't it? To be with the male lead against all odds, even if it means going against the wishes of their parents or the world. I wished her well. However, about 10 minutes later, I encountered the lead male of the drama himself, Gu Zhiyue, followed by a group of his entourage, cornered me in the hallway. By this time, the teachers and other students had left, and the building was deserted. My calls for help would go unheard. I looked up and realized that even the surveillance cameras had been tampered with. They had come prepared. Gu Zhiyue confronted me, his voice low. Gu Chu, it's time to wake up from your carp leaping over the Dragon Gate dream. Today, I'll show you what happens to hypocrites. No sooner had his words faded than his lackey charged forward, grabbing my hair and smashing my head against the wall with force. With a loud bang, plaster dust scattered from the wall. Pain shot through my head, seeing stars, yet from somewhere I found the strength to fiercely kick the lackey right between his legs. A scream of agony followed, and he collapsed to the ground, his face contorted in pain. Gu Zhiyue's expression changed instantly. Just as he was about to signal the other lackeys to step forward, I suddenly pulled a wine bottle from my backpack. It was a gift from Gu's father for a dinner party that evening, intended for sharing with classmates. In a swift motion, I smashed the wine bottle against the wall, splattering red liquid and shards in all directions. Then, brandishing the jagged bottle, I faced the group of boys threateningly. Come on, I shouted loudly. My hair was a mess, coated with filthy wall dust. A warm liquid trickled from my nose to my chin, probably blood. I didn't know how deranged I looked, but evidently, the sight had frozen the boys in place. None dared approach. Wiping the blood from my nose, I laughed and said, hypocritical. Gu Zhiyue, you really have a way with words. Fine, I'm hypocritical, and you're righteous. At least the hypocritical me has donated money to save people. What about our righteous young master Gu, who has benefited from your help? Ah, it wouldn't just be your beloved damsel in distress, would it? In the distance, Zhou Shimeng bit her lip and sidestepped to hide. She didn't need to hide. I had already seen her. Gu Zhiyue was ready to defend her and take me down. How could she miss this drama? The blood continued to flow from my nose, impossible to wipe clean, so I simply let it be. Looking at Gu Zhiyue and then at the dozen boys behind him, I smiled calmly. Gu Zhiyue, you brought so many people, made such a scene, you better not let me leave here alive today, otherwise, my smile faded. If you let me walk away alive, I'll drag you to hell with me. Gu Zhiyue's face turned pale, just as Zhou Shimeng once said. Gu's father is an honorary school director, and with the Gu family's significant influence, Gu Zhiyue bullying students usually went unnoticed by the teachers as long as it didn't escalate too seriously, but he didn't have the guts to kill someone at school. He stared at me for a long time before muttering softly, you'd be getting off easy if you died now. You scheming woman. I laughed loudly. Is this scheming to you? Want to know what real scheming looks like? I looked at Gu Zhiyue, a chilling thrill passing through me. Finally, I could tell him. I spoke deliberately. The journalist investigating the bullying case was brought in by me. In an instant, both Gu Zhiyue and Zhou Shimeng's pupils dilated. You thought it was just a coincidence, a casual mention of bullying, and a journalist happened to hear it while visiting the school. I pointed at myself, smiling, because I arranged for that journalist to come. I wrote anonymous letters to several newspapers, reporting severe bullying at Jiangqing No. 1 middle school. This kind of story, if true, is front-page news, so they were bound to send someone to investigate. I knew with Zhou Sherma's simple mind, if I bumped her from the dance performance, she'd likely run to you, claiming I bullied her. Perfect timing, as she came to you crying. The journalist was conducting undercover visits, a match made in heaven. The journalists will definitely investigate me. Of course, I prepared everything necessary. In the end, I'll be able to prove my innocence. But think about it. Gu Zhiyue, once the journalists realize that this was all a misunderstanding and that I'm not the bully, will they just stop there, or will they keep digging? Gu Zhiyue's face suddenly turned pale. I smiled. Do you understand? I orchestrated this whole event just for you. Even if only 2 out of the 7 or 8 journalists present that day continue their investigation, it will be enough to cause you significant trouble. You must have heard what the director of the Education Bureau said. He despises bullying the most. If your bullying comes to light, not even Dad can save you. See, Gu Xiao, this is what you call being schematically brilliant. After I spoke with a grin, Gu Zhiyue's expression turned extremely sour, and the boys around him were clearly losing their patience. What should we do, Brother Gu? Are the journalists still around the school? If they come this way, we're done for. If this gets recorded, it will affect us for life. These boys were mostly from ordinary families and followed Gu Zhiyue into misdeeds only because they believed he had a strong backing and couldn't get into serious trouble. But the press conference that day in the meeting room was intimidating enough to deter anyone. I am nominally the daughter of the Gu family, and even I was nearly ruined by the event, let alone others. I masterminded the whole affair, using a decoy to warn the real bully, Gu Zhiyue. So, dear brother, please take good care of me and support my work at the Gu Corporation. I leaned in close to Gu Zhiyue, smiling charmingly. Otherwise, I might just drag the entire Gu family down with me. My smile disappeared abruptly as I tapped Gu Zhiyue's neck with a broken bottle and walked away. No one stopped me the entire time. Only Zhou Shimin's voice, tinged with a sob, could be heard from behind. Zhiyue, how could you just let her walk away like that? His response was a cold and irritable. Get lost. Gu Zhiyue seemed to have suddenly become obedient. In the past, he never allowed me to attend any of the Gu family's banquets. This time, someone invited him to a dinner, and he proactively said to Mother Gu, let me take my sister with me. Mom, please prepare a dress for her. Over the phone, I heard Zhou Shimin quarrel with him. Shouldn't you be taking me as your date? Gu Zhiyue sounded very impatient. I've already paid for you to study in Australia. What more do you want? Zhou Shimin's performance in her college entrance examination was very poor. In her past life, her academics were weak, and she was solely focused on ingratiating herself with the Gu family. This time, from easy mode to hell mode, her results were even worse. Her only way out was to cling to Gu Zhiyue, but I could tell that Gu Zhiyue was getting annoyed. Initially, Zhou Shimin attracted Gu Zhiyue with her image of a poor but stubborn and independent girl. A persona of dignity that wealth could not corrupt and force could not subdue, but this was not her true nature. One can pretend for a while, but not forever. Gu Zhiyue liked girls who were poor yet could say no to luxurious gifts, not the kind who would cry and beg him to take her to study in Australia. But unfortunately, Zhou Shimin could fake the former but truly couldn't keep up the latter, because she had no other options. If Gu Zhiyue didn't take her along, she would be truly trapped in the suffocating Zhou family. After the summer break, Zhou Shimin went to Australia with Gu Zhiyue. Actually, Gu Zhiyue never publicly acknowledged Zhou Shimin as his girlfriend, but Zhou's parents couldn't wait. They hired paparazzi to follow Gu Zhiyue and Zhou Shimin, took photos of the couple dining intimately, and posted them online. Gu Corporation's heir seen dining intimately with his girlfriend. The pair reportedly childhood sweethearts. Mr. Gu saw the report and threw his phone down in anger. Such lowly tactics. She hasn't even graduated from university, and already they're trying to push her into our family. When Gu Zhiyue returned home, his father scolded him fiercely. If you want to get married, wait for your mother and me to arrange it. You can look around and date casually if you like, but don't bring home someone who clearly can't hold their own in society. Gu Zhiyue listened silently, his gaze quietly fixed on me. Sitting beside him, I felt his eyes on me, but I just kept my head down, focusing on the financial report. It was the same with Zhou's parents in their previous lives. Just as Gu Zhiyue started to show some interest in me, they couldn't wait to drug me and send me straight to Gu's bed. As for Gu's parents, they too had fiercely opposed Gu Zhiyue marrying a girl from this kind of family in their past lives. Unfortunately, fate was short. They died before Gu Zhiyue could get married. After berating Gu Zhiyue, his father strictly forbade him from meeting Zhou Sherman during his vacation. Gu Zhiyue did not resist. He stayed at home, occasionally showing me kindness, and bought me a pair of expensive diamond earrings for my birthday. I was out with friends until late. And he waited outside the bar in his car to pick me up. Sitting next to me, Song Shali held a non-alcoholic mojito, looking out at Gu Zhiyue, who was incessantly smoking. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something. I stopped her with my hand. I know what you're going to say, don't worry, I'm aware of the situation. After saying goodbye to my friends, I sat in the passenger seat of Gu Zhiyue's car. He handed me a bag. Looking down, I saw hangover soup and small cakes from my favorite dessert shop. I smiled. Gu Zhiyue, there's no need. He silently pressed the accelerator and said nothing. The ride home was quiet. At home, I threw the hangover soup and the cakes into the trash. Gu Zhiyue just stood there watching, silent till the end. I went back to my room, not wanting to deal with him. Song Shali, studying computer science at Tsinghua next door, had recently developed a program that could improve corporate personnel management efficiency. This was a great opportunity to start her own business. Having interned at Gu Corporation's Strategic Investment Department for nearly 3 years, I had some influence. I decided to allocate 2 million in funding for Song Shali to co-found a company. She would handle the technology, and I would handle the business. Lately, I've been busy with many things. Compared to these, Gu Zhiyue really wasn't important. Unexpectedly, Zhou Sherman saw Gu Zhiyue driving me home. Having not seen Gu Zhiyue for a long time, she waited at the entrance to the villa area, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. Just then, she saw me getting out of Gu Zhiyue's car. I can imagine the fear in her heart at that moment. She probably saw a flashback of a past life where Gu Zhiyue coldly told her to leave without a penny and then turned gently to put a wedding dress on me. It was her deepest nightmare. Monday morning, after meeting with prospective clients, I left the company building with documents in hand. At the stairwell, I saw a familiar figure. Zhou Sherman had lost weight, her cheeks were slightly hollow, and her eyes were red, yet, she was still beautiful, with a small face and Barbie-like eyes, like a star torn from a magazine. Originally at the orphanage, Zhou Sherman was the prettiest child. Almost every adopting family noticed her first, if not for her pride. She would have been adopted long ago. Perhaps that's why she was particularly unwilling to accept her situation. She walked towards me and stopped right in front of me. She was wearing high heels, standing half a head taller than me in my flat business shoes. Zhou Shiming said, "I'm pregnant, and it's Gu Zhiyue's child." I replied, "Is that so? Then it's probably better not to wear such high heels." Zhou Shiming stared at my face, trying to detect any hint of emotional fluctuation. But she found nothing. Eventually, she broke down first. "Sure, Chu, what other tactics do you still have up your sleeve? How on earth are you competing with me for Gu Zhiyue? In this lifetime, he's supposed to like me, and you should be the person he dislikes the most. He shouldn't be leaving you a dime in the future. Why did I study all the ways you won his favor in the last life and follow them, yet he grows colder towards me? What tricks are you still hiding that you haven't told me?" Watching Zhou Shiming collapse in tears, I sighed after a long while. "Excuse me, I have another client to visit." Zhou Shiming looked up at me. "Gu Shichu, you won't tell, will you?" "It doesn't matter." In that instant, I realized something, but it was already too late. Zhou Shiming stepped forward, hugged me tightly, and then leaned back. We both tumbled down the stairs. With a loud crash, Zhou Shiming and I landed at the bottom of the staircase. My head likely hit the railing, and all went dark before my eyes. I felt severe pain in my knee, unable to tell which leg could still move. In the darkness, I heard Zhou Shiming crying out, "Zhiyue," struggling to lift my head. I vaguely made out the person standing before me. "Gu Zhiyue." Blood spread out from beneath Zhou Shiming's skirt. She cried, "Zhiyue, our child is gone. Your sister pushed me. She said your child would take away her share of the inheritance." Gu Zhiyue's face turned ashen. After a long moment, he bent down and picked me up. Zhou Shiming's eyes widened in disbelief. She looked mournfully at Gu Zhiyue and cried, "Zhiyue." Gu Zhiyue said coldly, "Zhou Shiming, you disgust me." Zhou Shiming started trembling. This was her nightmare. In the last life, Gu Zhiyue often said this to her, "Zhou Shiming, you disgust me." Different choices, different processes, but why the same outcome? Zhou Shiming screamed as if mad. "Why? I clearly chose correctly. Why is it always the same outcome no matter what I choose?" I heard no more of what she said. The dizziness in my head grew stronger. The world gradually faded to black. In the hospital room, the faint smell of disinfectant lingered. I opened my eyes, and Gu Jiue sat by the bed. He spoke softly. It was Zhou Shiming who called me over, probably planning to frame you, but I arrived early, so I heard your entire conversation. Sure Chu, focus on healing, don't worry about anything else.